Good evening and welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Ulysses Town Board. It is June 13th, 2023, and I will call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. May we please have a roll call?
Ms. Weatherby,
Present.
Ms. Bouchard,
Present.
Ms. Olson,
Present.
Mr. Bott,
Present.
Mr. Goldman.
Present.
Wonderful. If you are joining us in person or online, you can go to the town website to find the agenda posted. If you are here, I did print 5. There are more of you than 5, which is unusual. So does anybody need one who doesn't have one? Do you mind sharing? Thank you. Okay.
I only have one.
Excellent. So we have an agenda. Sorry, I'm just getting my timer set to start public privilege of the floor. We have an agenda. I would like to add an item under I think it is old business, but for safety's purposes, we'll put it under new business. I'd like to add a discussion of the RCAP contract. So that would be G under new business. Are there any other items that anyone wishes to add or alter? If not, accept a motion to approve the agenda with this amendment.
Move to approve as amended.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Excellent. All those in favor?
Aye.
Wonderful. That brings us to privilege of the floor. We have 2 of these in our meeting, the beginning of the meeting, at the end of the meeting. And so any member of the public is welcome to address us. We do have a 3-minute limit. I will set my little timer on. And the way I like to manage the hybrid one is we start with the person, if there's somebody in person who wants to present or speak, and then we go to online and then back and forth until everybody has an opportunity who wants to speak. Is there any member of the public present in person who'd like to speak? Yes, sir.
My name is Dan Woodring, working with grassroots to make a community skate garden. And just like to offer, if anybody's interested in being part of a steering committee with us, we're seeking guidance and experience, opinions on how to go about a relationship with the town. So I'll leave my email here.
Wonderful. Great. So probably I'll end up reaching out to you and I'll probably copy our planner in because he's a really good contact person for the town for all things land use and activity, and we can continue a conversation. Awesome. Thank you for coming tonight. Well, you definitely didn't use your 3 minutes, so well done. Not that I criticize people who use their 3 minutes. I don't. Anyone online who would wish to address the board? Okay, we'll come back online. Is there anybody in person who would like to address the board? Okay, going back to online, I see Ms. Moreno has her hand raised. Please go ahead.
Thanks. So I had one very brief piece of input that I wanted to give on the item about the town water, the policy, water district policy. And there's a draft of that online, and just to I'd like to make the suggestion that where it says that the town board shall review the town's comprehensive plan and other plans, and thank you for changing that to shall. That was a previous comment I had raised. In the next paragraph, I'd like to see it added that the board review of those applicable plans and documents, as well as any explanatory cost estimates, will be shared with the public in advance of, and then the rest of that sentence, so that the public is aware from the beginning of the rationale that the board is using for considering going forward with any water, pursuing a water district extension. So I think that, putting in writing the review and the finding that this meets, fits with those documents is something that's important for the public to see. So that was one thing. And the other thing is with regard to the RCAP contract discussion, and I think it's very exciting that we can have a relationship with RCAP to help us with electronic surveys. Theirs was, as the board saw, some discussion an email that another member of our water committee sent you, and then I also wrote in with the suggestion that I'd like to repeat here, that if you do pass a resolution after adopting this contract, it would be really great if the resolution included that the contact representative, the designated representative, which is in the contract to serve as the primary contract for the survey, should be someone from the Water Source Protection Plan Committee, and the committee should decide who that best is to work with Becky, because we've been working on this for quite a while, and we've met twice with some of the board members and the staff, and we have a very good committee, and so I think it would be just work much more efficiently if we were really integrated into that. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in person who wishes to address the town board? Okay, back to online. Is there anybody online who wishes to address the town board? Okay. Well, then we will move ourselves along. The next item is municipal board and staff updates and municipal board and staff reports and announcements. A lot of this material has been posted online in written form, but we have a pretty packed agenda with 2 separate presentations, which is unusual for us. So that has been provided in writing. Was there anybody, before I turn it over to Legislator Corman, was there anybody on the town board who wished to say anything of particular note that they wanted to make sure that we were aware of that did not make it into the board and committee reports?
No, I think it made it in, but just a reminder to the public, we have our comprehensive plan steering committee meeting tomorrow. That's open to the public at 6 o'clock here in this room. So anybody's welcome to join and participate via Zoom as well. So just a reminder.
And on that, there's a separate page associated with the town where you can follow along, and all the videos have been posted of all the meetings to date, as well as agendas, and as the minutes get posted as approved, they'll get posted there also. But we encourage community participation. Mary, did you have anything?
Yeah, I was just gonna mention that the Recreation Partnership met right prior to this meeting. And the representatives that were there agreed that they would like to go for a 2% increase in funding for for the Recreation Partnership over maintenance of effort. So that maintenance of effort is, they just offer all the same things that they offered last year. Maintenance of effort represents a 8% increase because of the increase in the minimum wage, that kind of snowballs and everybody's pay goes up, basically. So the difference between maintenance of effort and a 2% increase is about $200, actually $120 for the town of Ulysses, because the brunt of the expenses borne by Tompkins County and the city of Ithaca and town of Ithaca. But some of the things that they were talking about adding were chess, role playing, prenatal yoga, and kids yoga.
No swimming.
Go yoga.
No swimming. Well, Liz Ploman wasn't there, so I was going to ask her about swimming lessons.
I deeply miss their program. It was excellent.
Anyway, so that's just a heads up. It's a 10% increase over last year, but it's
Okay.
not, in terms of money, it's not.
What's the difference between the 2% and the 10%?
Well, 2% more of a budget is what the representatives were supporting.
And what's the 10%?
Well, that would represent a 10% increase over 2023.
So that does the maintenance of effort plus 2%, is
Yeah,
that correct?
yeah.
Because everything costs more to do,
Right.
Yeah.
so,
And this is all, you know, contingent on that they can find staffing because that's always a problem.
Right.
For them,
Okay.
especially summer staffing.
Yeah.
Needs.
excellent, thank you, Mary, that's good, that's really good to know as we go into early budget. I will make sure that we include that, excellent, was there anything else from the town board that they wanted to make sure people know? If not, then I would welcome, I'm sorry, Nancy. I was jumping ahead to you, and it's Legislator Corman's opportunity to tell us about the great things that are happening in Tompkins County.
Thank you very much, Supervisor. I have just a couple things, not a lot of things today. And let's see, we have a jail working group. I don't know if I had brought that up before, but we have engaging the community and having some roundtable discussions and looking at, do we have the services that we would like to have at the jail? Do we need to do anything physically with the jail? So stay tuned for the outcome of those meetings. Our weights and measures department will now be under our highway department because it was pretty much a one-person department. And so we're hoping with it being at the highway department that we can have more consistency with that. We did proclamations for LGBTQ plus Pride Month. And this year we awarded it to the Tompkins County Library because they really do a lot of things for LGBTQ youth and people of all ages. So we really wanted to recognize them this year. And at the county, we are flying the pride flags, and I see the villages and I see the town is. So thank you for doing that. We also did a proclamation for Women's Veterans Day. The property tax auction, which was supposed to be June 2nd, was postponed due to a legal case that we were waiting on at the I think it was at the state level. And so I believe we're going to carry out the auction later at the very end of June. And I asked our finance and our attorney to make sure we notified the one occupant that was there at the one property that was going up for auction in the town of Ulysses, but I'm assuming that they were probably already moved out. But anyway, I wanted to make sure that they reached out and notified that person in case they were still there. Let's see, through our Community Housing Development Fund, which I'm chair of proudly, we awarded $360,000 for 6 for sale townhomes. They're in the village of Trumansburg, but of course that affects the town also. So it's really great that we're able to offer grants to help do for sale units that are affordable, because those rarely come before our committee. It's usually rental properties. There is a delay in our RFP that we're doing for broadband. And that's because TCOG, the members of TCOG asked us to look at some more options. For instance, the county owning, it's the like having municipal broadband throughout the county. It's something we had discussed before at the legislature level. And we didn't seem like there was an interest in doing that. But because TCOG wanted us to look at that again, so that's going to be paused, hopefully just for a month or two while we have our contractors give us some information on that. And we had an interesting presentation I just want to share with all the municipalities about homelessness. And I know we don't have as much in the town, but there is some. Most of the people wind up moving to Ithaca because there's more services down there. Through COVID, the rate of homelessness has increased quite a bit. And what we're finding out is people have more complex issues. And there's also less availability of services because we're having difficulty at the county keeping our staff levels up. And it's the same across the board for nonprofits who offer a lot of different services. But we are taking, a hard look, doing several things to figure out what we can do to help people who are homeless. we are canceling our July legislature meeting. Last couple of years, we just cancel one a year to give our staff a break. And so we'll have just one meeting in July. It'll be the second meeting, which is actually the third Tuesday of the month. And the last thing I just want to say, I am on the if putting on a different hat, I am on the Jacksonville Community Board. So I know you have people there in person who will be doing a presentation and answering questions, but I just wanted to let you know that I'm also on that board too. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions from the board for legislative? I'm a big fan, as a side note, on your Fox photography. So I'm just gonna throw that out there as a teaser. for the community.
Oh, good. Yeah, we have, if anybody's on Facebook and wants to, to look at baby foxes, we think 4, I thought maybe 5, but they move around really fast. So it's hard to count them. But for sure, 4 baby foxes under our front porch that the mom is feeding. So it's pretty entertaining. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. With that then, may I welcome Nancy? Would you like to come, would you like a podium? Would you like a chair? What is most convenient for you?
Well, I just want to be able to thank you, Caitlin, and the other members of the board, but I also want to be able to sort of see and hear.
Yeah, probably coming up near a speaker is good.
Okay,
Make sure it's recorded and everybody.
okay,
hears.
I'm happy to do that.
Marissa, what I'm gonna do, just because I forgot to communicate this with you, I'm gonna join this meeting. And I can do you want to show any of the slides or do you not?
If there are questions about it, then that presentation, the PowerPoint that I had sent last month, we could bring up, but it's mostly focused on the proposal going forward, so.
So I'll just join and then in case we need to reach, I can.
We just need to make sure that your, both your.
I'm muted. Yeah.
And your.
Okay.
Oh, great. Thank you all. And as we were alluding to, last month, Chief Angie, the president of the Jacksonville Community Association Board, and I were here and handed off an update for you about some of the incremental improvements we've been making over time, many of which with help from the town, to make the park more accessible, user-friendly, and so that is sort of where we had come from, including a $5,000 grant in 2019 from Tompkins County. But the real reason I'm sort of here tonight, Pete had a conflict, I apologize. But as a JCA board member on this project, I'm going to carry the ball, I think. And the county has more 100% funding available in amounts of up to $5,000 for municipal parks and or trails. And so the only the town can apply for the money. So I'm here tonight to ask the town board if you would approve the resolution that's on your agenda to allow the town to request up to $5,000 from the county in 100% funding to help us do 2 things to make the Jacksonville Community Park on Swamp College Road more handicap accessible. And that is that, and I believe that members and that our summary of the proposal was not only given to members, but was available online. And so you've got more details, but I'll just summarize quickly that there are two related components to this plan to enable the park to be more easily used by people with mobility and disability issues. And the first is to create a handicap accessible parking lot that would be, for anybody who's familiar with the park, you sort of pull in that long driveway and then there's a flagpole. And so just to the left of the flagpole, or sort of in front of the flag, in front of and to the left of the flagpole would be an ADA compliant parking lot. And then from that parking area, which we hope to maybe be able to put maybe 6 cars in there. With at least one designated with a handicap parking sign. From that parking area, a path would continue. So if you're familiar with the park and you're looking at the flagpole, the pavilion is to your right. And the path, a 4-foot wide ADA accessible path, would travel along the left side of the pavilion and continue on to a restroom, which very soon will be operational and ADA compliant as well. So the grant that we put together, the budget is really just an estimate. And it was based on a preliminary estimate given to us by one contractor. But since then, we've done some research to know that you can't just throw down pressure run big gravel and expect people with unsteady walking or in a wheelchair to navigate that. So another layer would be added to make it be like, if anybody's familiar with the Black Diamond Trail, that caliber of surface is what we're aiming for. And so costs for labor and materials are part of what we're asking for. And so I did want to just do 2 updates since this came out. I wanted to thank Scott Stewart as our highway superintendent and Dave Snyder as his deputy. They met with Pete and me to look at the park, look at the plans, give their ideas and expertise, and to see whether or not the highway department, because of the relationship we have between the town and Jacksonville Community Association, where the highway department could help with some of the costs related to gravel. And it sounds like that may be possible. We could reduce some of our costs and continue some of the collaborations we've done in the past. I know there was a question about sort of like who would the contractor be or how would we make sure the contractors were skilled and proficient at being able to do this. We met with one potential contractor today to review the site and to ask for an estimate. I don't have that yet, but if the town approves the resolution tonight, and if the county approves our request for 5,000, at that point, we would be doing more of a bid solicitation from other contractors to be able to see who could really do the labor, which will involve excavating a somewhat uneven surface to then be able to lay down bigger stone and finer stone and compact it all so that it is what we need to get from point A to point B. So I'm happy to answer questions about either the proposal or if people had questions about the presentation, certainly happy to do that as well. Maybe just as a side note, when we talked to you last month, we had hoped that, we could just sort of get this parking lot and path done sort of quick and easy with our own resources. But when we looked at what it takes to be ADA compliant, it's a little more complex, a little more expensive. And so we had thought if we could knock that off easy, we'd see what it would cost to try to electrify, to bring electricity from the bottom of that very long driveway to the pavilion and restroom. We did in fact get one professional estimate, and that was really helpful to talk with them about how we might do this, but that was more expensive than what we could consider in this. So that would be something that would be chunked over time, but we wanted to be able to do the parking lot and path well. And so that's what the focus of the proposal is. So any questions?
I think Rich had one.
Well, $100 an hour seems a little high, though, for labor rate. Was that standard? Seems pretty high to me.
Again, the one contractor that we asked to give us a preliminary, those were his figures, and I figured we'd budget high based on that. We, again, it sounds like that we may be able to get a better deal than that, but by soliciting bids. But that was, I didn't know either. Clearly, I looked up prevailing wage because it wasn't clear whether it would be the town writing the checks or the Jacksonville Community Association. And prevailing wage for what I could find was really like in the 20s per hour.
Good luck finding a contractor.
Yeah.
I think you can find.
Yeah, so like, so I think we've got some excellent contractors in town who I think would be interested in bidding on this, and then we'll see. That's from an outside edge, I think, of what we hope.
And the resolution says up to 5,000. Is that wiggle room or do you want it to be for 5,000?
Well, we're,
Tompkins County provides funds, up to 5,000.
yeah, that's their maximum.
I see.
And so that's what I would expect to do. I mean, the Jacksonville Community Association has a little bit of money in our checking account to put toward this, because as you saw, the total was more like in the 8,000 range. But if we can save some money with the help of the highway department on the gravel side of it, that's not the biggest cost, but it's a significant one. And there's a cost in here for hauling, which if an independent person is going to get the stone and bringing it to us, that's fee. But if we are having it delivered to the highway department and they bring it over, there are places that may trim, but I'd still like to take advantage of the full 5,000 from the town. I mean, the county rather, sorry.
So I was just gonna say
Yeah.
too, is that Nancy and I have already talked about this, but in conversation with our town attorney and Michelle, who's our grants and project manager for the town. I think what will make sense is if this grant is successful, that we'll craft an MOU specifically on this
Mhm.
project that will just clarify what Jacksonville JCA is gonna do, what the town's gonna do, and put it in, very, clear language for all of us to.
Yeah,
We're already
happy
on the
to-
partners, but I
Yeah.
think it makes sense. Because I think as you move forward, you may end up with better numbers in the
Mhm.
interim.
Right.
So that's, just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, and we're happy to do that because I think the clearer we can all be with each other, better, and it would be our intent to do. Whatever accounting the county requires to make sure that gets done with i's dotted and t's crossed, so that the town would get fully reimbursed. That would be the goal.
Yes, that would definitely be an excellent goal, an achievable goal.
Yeah.
Does the board have any other questions?
I have a couple of questions. So for the labor and material the highway department would give you, are we going to account for that, or is that just a?
Yes, we would be basically, they'd be getting it at the price point that the
Right.
town pays for, as opposed to the price point that they would have to pay for to get it themselves.
But the labor as well, or?
Yeah, we hadn't factored it, like this hauling fee, for example, was if a private person were hauling. Is your question, would the town be able to recoup some of that 5,000 grant to offset the labor from the
So
highway
we've
department?
agreed to give the JCA $5,000 a year,
Right,
irregardless of the grant.
right.
But like the water line that went in, I mean, are we just giving it to you? Like sliding it under, or is it being accounted for, is where I'm going with it?
Do you have any?
Well, what we talked about this morning was the millings was one thing, and that was something that the town of Ithaca. Just gave us, so it's
Right.
free anyways, so the millings. Is probably gonna be just, we'll just give it to them, but. As far as the screenings go, we would have to go get it and bring it back, so
Yeah.
I'm not sure what.
I'm
you
just
guys-
curious. I mean, if it happens, it happens, but. We get into this, as you guys do shared services with the other towns. We help
Yeah.
them, they help us.
Right.
So that's what I was curious about.
Well, I think we certainly want to be careful and account for time and materials, whether there's money that changes hand between the grant and the highway.
No, it's not part of the grant, it's about part of our 5,000, the town's 5,000, not the county's 5,000. Because we've agreed to give you 5,000 a year for
Right,
the park.
right. So you would
Yeah.
want us to give it, either
As part of-
not receive it or
Yeah.
give some back?
Part of the budget, but if we
Right.
vote on it. every-
Right.
It's
Well, we
not-
already voted on it.
Right, but it's
For
for next year,
23, right,
so you're already gonna get.
Well, that's for this year. She's
Yeah.
talking about, this is something they're doing now.
right, this,
Yeah.
This is on top of.
yeah,
It's on top of the existing 5,000. we gave.
Yeah.
It would be the cost of labor and mileage essentially.
I mean, like,
I mean, I'll keep track of everything and then. I
Sure,
don't
there's no way
know
we-
And that would
you
be
guys-
deducted from the 5,000 that
No.
you.
Yeah,
No.
that's what
Is that
I'm
what you're-
doing. Yeah,
Well,
suggesting.
and it could just be instead of 150 going to the contractor, it'd be 150 or 100, whatever the
Yeah,
rate would be
that's-
to go to the highway department.
just a question. I mean, just, are we,
That's.
I don't know if they'll be able to use county money to offset town.
No,
money.
no,
Yeah.
yeah, but I think there's a way to account
Yeah.
for it, so. The town is recuperating
Yeah.
stuff too, but I don't think we could get, we can't ask the county to pay for.
I'm confused. Nancy wouldn't have to come here if the five.
She wants us to sign on, to submit a grant
This,
on, for the
Right.
JCA.
Right, but we're not putting out any more money because we're already putting out the 5,000, correct?
Right, but I'm curious with part of the 5,000, what we've done in the past is we've done in-kind services.
Yeah, we mowed stuff. like
Yeah,
that.
we mow every year, that's in kind, we put the water line in.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm just curious, because this is gonna be
Yeah.
ongoing, right? Because they have a plan to keep upgrading the park,
Right.
and to make it, something modern and.
I think the town board could then just get this, to determine whether you want to consider this an in-kind contribution beyond the MOU. Or if you want the JCA to write a check back to the town for services. I mean, and that could be in the. In the
Yeah, the
MOU.
JC, did we give the 5,000 yet? We did.
No, it'll be in this. In this one, or we did a,
It's not.
No,
it's not, that's coming the next one, I think, yeah.
I mean, and certainly it's up to you to decide how to do that. We, basically, you're right, that in the past, the town has offered a lot of in-kind
Right.
support. And we haven't itemized what the cash value of that in-kind support is. We can document time and materials. If you want to start, trading money, and that's your prerogative to do, that would, I assume, for this project, it might be something that gets clarified in the MOU.
I would
between the
agree,
town
yeah.
And the community association, depending on how
What makes
the
sense.
board, yeah.
What is this 5,000 we're giving going for?
So we have an
First
MOU
5,000.
to give 5,000 in support of the JCA for 5 years.
So they're gonna use it however they want. It's an
And some of that,
unrestricted fund.
right,
Some of that is
JCA
gonna-
funds, 30, under this budget model, 3,400 would also be from, I would imagine.
Right, yeah,
Partially. from that.
right, yeah, this 3,400 is part of the anticipated 23 budget of 5,000. So we would be using most of it for this project.
Okay,
We pay about $1,000 a year for insurance for the
Right.
park, which is part of our agreement with you. And now that we do have a water line, we got our first bill from the clerk that said our cost of having a water system is $600. And so that had been talked about in the past as it could come from the,
right.
so that accounts for the difference that's here between 5,000 and
Yeah.
34.
So
I
you,
think your co-partner also has her hand raised, I think she wants to, may want to contribute. To your presentation.
And
Thank you. So just a couple things. Going back to the surface that we chose first, that we had talked about for a while. We wanted something environmentally friendly. So for instance, that's pervious surface, so water can run right through it. And Nancy already mentioned mobility. And so it also, if you make it ADA accessible, of course, it also makes it family friendly because there's very young people that have mobility issues. That they have to be in a stroller, for instance. And so I had a clarification question. For help me understand this, Nancy, are you talking for the county grant that some of that would be be paid back to the town for
No.
services?
I think that was.
no.
Nobody is proposing that.
No.
Oh, okay. All right, just wanted.
I want to be very clear that that was not a proposal.
It just
Okay.
because the grant is for $5,000 and the town's allocation to JCA
It's $5,000.
annually is
Yeah.
about $5,000.
So
And
which
so which
5,000
5,000 were we talking about? We were talking about.
Okay.
But I have another question.
Mhm.
Is
Thank you.
30 tons of stone really is only $25 a ton?
It's even cheaper than that.
It's even cheaper.
Cheaper
for
than
us.
that.
It's the trucking. It's not the stuff.
But the whole, $150 seems very light to haul all that stone,
It's cheaper for us.
right, to
Yeah,
do it.
so, but for a contractor, I don't really know how much
Right,
it is for
right,
them.
Right, and again, when we put this together, it was preliminary. We've continued to do more research on the type of stone. I mean, we've got that sort of by cubic yards, but today we were looking at more realistically to get what we need is probably close to 20 tons of the bigger rock and maybe 10 tons of the finer material. And, you know, so,
I'm not happy at $100 an hour.
well, we would, you know,
And this is just one estimate, like Nancy said.
Well, I know,
too.
but we're gonna approve it.
Well,
No,
we're
we're not.
not approving a contract. We are approving
Right.
that
Gauge
we're
for
writing the
resolution.
grant
Right.
to go to the county. And then only if we get the grant would we then be seeking contractors and then we have that.
And then then there's a
the
bidding process and
$100
there's
fee
the
and
procurement
all these other
processes
rates.
required all pop into that.
Yeah.
This is just a kind of a best guess holding pattern based on the information you have it today.
yeah. And my guess is that the $100, you know, I mean, I have no idea because I don't know the individual who did the very preliminary estimate. But I pay for the work on my house, probably comes close to that.
Well, hourly wage plus benefits.
Yeah.
You absolutely, for a skilled employee, could
Yeah.
absolutely be approaching $100 an hour. So,
Yeah,
It's if I could chime in, at the excavator, if they're doing excavation, which it sounds like we're gonna need that because you're paying for the equipment. So you're paying hourly for the equipment and the person, that could easily be 100 to 200 for excavation. And then if that part's done, then it's less to have somebody do something without big equipment. And then you have to pay for often the price to have that machinery dropped off and picked up. So it's pretty costly.
right. I mean, our goal would be to get it, you know, as
Yeah.
cheaply and as well
Right.
done as possible. So.
Right.
Okay.
so the
So that's a
resolution,
little sticker shock, huh?
the resolution before us, and if the town board's amenable, I would
Yeah.
request bringing that resolution forward on the agenda
I
now.
have a couple of questions for Nancy though.
Oh, sure.
This is a JCA question. So when you proposed the 5-year agreement, my fear was that would get lost with the continuity of the board. So last I checked, we did not have an insurance policy from you guys.
We do have an insurance
Yeah.
policy.
Okay, can I get a copy of that? Yeah. Okay, and then did we have a park liaison we're supposed to have a park liaison from one of us 5?
We do not currently have a park liaison. Nancy has been providing the updates.
Yeah.
She just joined the board.
No, from our board, it's supposed to be liaison to their
Right, we
board.
do not have, it did not get filled
Yeah.
at the organization meeting.
So can we somehow have that in our annual meeting so we don't forget?
Well, it actually was, we just didn't fill it. So.
No, the whole JCA thing, because I think the reason the insurance was forgotten, because by doing it, I understand why you wanted to do it for 5 years, but without bringing it up in every annual meeting, it will slip by us.
Okay, sure.
Right, so that's how,
I will add that to my to-do list.
yeah, so I'm not proposing to change the 5-year agreement, but somehow bring it up.
Right, to make sure that annually the insurance. is
Yeah, that
updated.
we ask the right
Yeah.
questions at the right time.
Sure.
Yeah, and then so the other thing about, because of COVID with the JCA, I used to get notifications. The mayor of Jacksonville used to send them out once upon a time. So I don't see any more notifications from the JCA, so I don't even know who the board is or if they even meet anymore, because we used to
Right.
meet at the school.
Right, there's
So
There's
what's,
a board of, there's the Jacksonville Community Association.
Right,
which
Pete's the top
includes
dog,
all
right?
all the community members.
Right.
And there used to be much bigger and more active group. What had, the bylaws for the group were redone under Diane and others. And now there's a board of directors because we're incorporated. So on the board of directors, Pete Angie is the president. Cameron Newhoff is our treasurer. We have, I forget who's Ann, who's our vice president. Ann is a member, I'm a member, and Bridget Beams, the
the
director of
school.
Namaste.
Yeah.
That's the board of directors. And so because of COVID, we stopped having public meetings, but I think the intent is to resume those and. in which
Because I don't
case
see
we
any
will-
other blasts that come out anymore, though.
No, but I think we certainly will. If we get this grant, we certainly intend to notify the community, and then we have talked about wanting to do like plan a community celebration
Right.
event for people to come see the
So I
park.
would ask of the JCA if they could start sending something out maybe once a month again.
Well, can they put it through the newsletter?
Sure, I mean, I don't know that we've got progress every month, but
Yeah.
yeah, but certainly.
Or something, or quarterly or whatever, yeah. Well, because like I said,
They knew that this was in progress.
Yes,
or they knew
rather
that we
than
existed
fait
anymore.
accompli. Huh?
I wish we knew that we existed anymore,
Oh,
because I haven't
oh.
seen, I know we do, but Right, but again, I haven't seen anything
Okay,
for.
well,
That's.
point
that's
well
right.
taken.
I
We
don't
need to
think that's
communicate
better.
better.
Yeah,
Got it.
Yeah.
Happy to do that.
Okay, and anything else?
we can beat a dead horse, Rich.
Let's-
Come on,
let's move
man.
The resolution.
Come on, I want to stay here till 10.
I moved the.
Spoiling my fun.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion on gatekeeper resolution? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Thank you.
Thank you.
And also. Excellent. Okay, that moves us on to welcoming our wonderful highway superintendent, Scott Stewart. To our meeting for kind of a mid-year update of all things highway department.
Yes. I will first start with the quote, for the parking lot.
Yes,
I printed it off kind of weird, but I only have 2 copies, but so I'll show you
I'll
that.
pass it around.
And then, so I had Seneca Stone do the quote. And I'm not familiar with where the line is for what is what.
Did you do the quote for the whole thing?
So I circled up, Rich,
Yeah.
I circled up here, so the town portion, which I think is halfway. Oh, out here,
Yeah.
and then all the thing, everything in the back
It's-
is the town, right?
It's
don't look at
roughly.
me, that's roughly,
I
right?
don't really know.
Kristen has the survey.
Survey.
And then on the back is the other side. So if you put it out, if you put both of these together, that would be everything. But if you just want to do the town portion, it would be the town portion.
The town portion is 24.
Right.
And the rest of it is 7,050.
Yeah.
Well, I think we can reach out to the owners of the property. We can see if they want to participate.
So what does that include? Like what kind of?
They're gonna mill it.
Oh, so they will mill it.
It says on there, yeah, so they're gonna mill it and then do like a 1.5 inches. I didn't really
Yep.
study it too much, but it's,
Oh, million. Okay.
This is a lot less than
HMA.
100,000.
Well,
Yes.
that was because it was different materials.
Yeah,
That was
you
more
did.
the.
this is just
permeable.
regular.
This is regular out.
Sweet. That's a good price.
It's a good
Yeah.
price.
Yeah, it's early in the season.
So, you know,
So
so
I think if we do it, we need to do the whole thing,
I would think so, yeah,
I mean,
but
right?
Yeah.
Doesn't make
Unless
sense.
they balk, right?
Even if they balk at 70, I mean,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
it's,
Yeah.
even if they balk, it's $7,800.
What do we have in the budget for this? It was like 100?
Yeah, there was like $100,000.
Well, it was never really in the budget. We talked
Or
about it
ARPA,
actually with ARPA
yeah.
money, and that was with permeable
Hmm.
pavement. So then the town board found that the feedback on permeable pavement has been that there's a lot of really crappy permeable pavement out there. And we didn't want to spend a fortune, like New York State's very unhappy with Teganics. Anyway, so then the town board came back and said, well,
Happy with who?
Teganics. got
Again, the
happy.
overlook.
Yeah, the overlook is permeable pavement and I cannot say in public some of the words that I have heard used to describe it. So then the town board considered whether or not we wanted to do a design that was cognizant of the fact that it's adjacent to a slope and water issues, and do a design that would incorporate, trying to keep water maintenance, water on the property and, percolate down through the ground. And that would obviously have to be an engineered activity. We have looked at some, and when I say these are rough, I mean, these are super rough numbers. It would probably cost us in the range of $30,000 to $40,000 potentially to have an engineered design for that space.
Right.
Yep, and then that would put us in a position where we likely could get grant money. Nobody's gonna give us grant money to repave with asphalt. So this, if we choose to do it with that regular asphalt, it'll come out of town coffers. So it's 2 different options of directions the town can decide to go in.
Does this include labor?
yeah, that's everything.
Okay.
And it's through the Tompkins County bid too, so it's.
Legit,
Legit,
yeah.
yeah.
No.
So,
I think if you can get the survey from Carissa and talk to the people next door. I'd like to get it behind us.
Yeah.
Because it is horrible.
It's horrible.
Well, we've been talking about it for a number
But
of
the
years.
other owners are, there are 2, aren't there?
There are 2
There are
owners,
2
yeah.
owners.
Yeah.
There's
So it's
this
the old
building
post
and then
office and-
This building?
Yes,
And the beauty salon.
yeah, it's a.
They don't have much though, do they?
They
They
do
have
have
just an
some.
edge of it or something, don't they?
I can't tell you exactly how much. I do know they own part of it because we had to deal, when Nancy was supervisor, there was a closing related to that, and so it had to be surveyed out. So they definitely own part. There are definitely 3 owners to that.
You remember that was just an edge thing? You remember that?
I don't remember Peter Walsh did the
Yeah.
surveying and stuff. I don't remember exactly, because there's a beauty salon, but then next to that is the apartment building. It was the apartment building that was being sold. That prompted the survey.
Right.
So their tenants have
So
access, but not ever marked out.
Scott needs some,
Well, the other thing I just want to say is, we also need lighting back there. It is really dangerous and dark and. In the winter, it's really difficult.
And
So how do we deal with that in the context of this?
gotta be somebody else.
Yeah, that would be a,
The village or?
no, it wouldn't be the village per se, but that would not be Scott. That would probably be our,
In a contract.
yeah, that'd be a contractor.
Yeah.
We'd have to put an RFP, we'd have to,
Is doing this before we do the lighting problematic? Is it-
No,
well, yeah, if you
well, I
want,
mean, if
if
you
you
want
want to ditch from the building over,
But
you would do it first.
Yeah, you wanna do that first, if you're gonna go underneath, then yeah.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. So,
So I think we need to get on that as well. But I mean, I think this is a good,
yeah.
it's a good
quote,
bid,
yeah.
good quote.
How long is this quote good for?
End of the month.
That's why I'm asking.
I mean, usually it's 30 days, I think,
Okay.
but I don't think it's gonna change much, because the asphalt prices have been pretty steady so far, so.
so I just want to clarify, so the town board's desire would be essentially a replacement in kind versus
Yes.
a new approach.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right, so moving on, if I can.
please do. Ritual, otherwise we start clicking this.
Yeah, I don't want that.
He woke me up this morning.
I did.
Want to do that? That's a cool idea.
So so recently, we've paved Indian Fort Road and we've shouldered that. And I always say Terrell Road, but I'm not sure if that I'm saying it right.
Terrell, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've done that road too with shoulders. We really did a good job with the drainage there. We replaced all the cross pipes, ditched everything. Cause it was a mess there for a long time as far as like nothing was flowing. So that's dried up now. Yes, it hasn't rained, but when it did rain there, when we were doing it, it was definitely, the water was moving good, so. And we have done some other things on Agard Road, down where the grassroots places. There was a tree that fell. Nancy, so we cleaned all that up, put new pipe in there. Let's see. We've done some ditching here and there, and we had Tompkins County come up and hydro seed all that. So we still have a lot more projects to go. We did the pipe across Rich's house this morning at 6:30 in the morning. But we wanted to get it done today, so which we did. So as far as the roads go, that's an update for you from there. And then I know that I would be concerned about it too. So the truck that we ordered, it seems like 10 years ago. But I think it was only 2 years ago. It goes in stages. So like you order it and then then the cab and the chassis gets built. And then from that plant, it goes to Viking, and then the Viking puts on the bed, all the snowplow equipment. And that's where we're at right now. So that'd be like stage 3, I guess.
How many stages and everything?
About
There's
49.
4, so we're close.
What make truck is it?
It's a Mack.
Mack.
Yeah, so they gotta do all that, and I'm assuming, because I don't have a definite date, that we're gonna get it by October, I think, September, October. and that'll be the 4th stage. They'll deliver it back to BMAC where we bought it. They go over it, then we go pick it up.
And we'll have basically paid it off at
Yeah,
that point.
pretty much.
So,
Because we.
Right.
Did pre-install it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's good.
So it's just crazy the way that all that works now. It's, you know, used to be ordered it, you'd get it within a year, but that's not happening anymore.
COVID did happen in the middle of that though, so, yeah.
So. And we'll stay on the agenda with trucks sometime tonight. They're on the agenda. There's a resolution for surplusing. So there's a 2014 F-150 that I want to surplus. That's got like 80,000 miles on it. It's a regular cab. It's done its job. You know, we're ready to move on from it.
Question for you on that
Yeah.
is, how are you surplusing it?
Auctions International.
Have you tried like some of the local dealers? Because people are like buying,
I haven't, no.
like,
I don't know
pickup-
if can I do that? I don't know.
I don't know, I would have to check, I don't know. if-
Yeah.
like if you would call McGuire or,
I mean, if I can
Pritchard.
do that, I'll call around. I just don't know if I can do that.
I can check for you.
Okay.
yeah, if you can, because people are paying crazy money for pickup trucks.
They are.
It's nuts.
Then there's a F-350, that's a 2015, that's a flatbed. We used to put the salt spreader on it and only use it in the winter time because you can't really use it other than that because it's a flatbed. And so, it doesn't have a lot of miles on it, like 30,000-40,000 miles, but we just don't use it.
You're surplusing that as
Yeah.
well.
So,
I would do the same thing if you guys can.
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, call McGuire and see.
yeah. So there's that. That's later today or tonight. Let's see. I am looking at hybrids for like a loader. Because that's gonna be something that we'll talk about later on this year for the budget next year. It's in the capital plan. And that I really want to get a hybrid, but I don't know if it'll be available. So, and this hybrid is Town of Ithaca bought one, and I think it's 85% electric. So then, of course, I'd have to get some way to plug it in, yeah.
It's
but,
like a charging station. And
and eventually I kind of want to go towards, electric pickup, stuff like
Sure.
that. I mean, I don't know if they'll ever get to a 10-wheeler, electric 10-wheeler, but if they do, then I mean, I'll definitely look into that, so. So that's something that I'll bring up as we move on this year. I have an employee that is coming up on a 6-month probation period that we hired in December. That has done a really good job. He had a lot of experience coming here. In the union, it says you have to wait a year. But I think we did this before. Yeah, so I have to okay it first, then I have to come to you guys, and then you guys have to approve it. So that'll probably be at the next meeting.
Thank you for that heads up.
Yeah, thank you for the heads up.
So, so there's that, across that. Meter replacements. I think we got about 25 to 30 left. And, it's hard to get a hold of some people. I think some of the information that nobody's fault or anything is, the phone number is not right or something, because it was from 20 years ago and they've moved and all that. And so now we're gonna make one more round of phone calls, and we're gonna knock on doors, and we're gonna try really hard to get all of them.
Turn the water off, they'll call you back.
Right. Right,
It's a little harsh.
that's a good idea.
No, it's just-
But
That's fine, they don't call me then.
Yeah.
Like calling him.
I mean, I want to get it all done before the next reading, which is in August. So, but we're making headway, so that's good. And then the last reading that we did,
sorry.
the last reading was in May. And it went really fast. It was like 3 hours. It was incredible, so. Didn't have to even get out of the truck.
Was that with your mobile unit?
Uh,
Is that your mobile unit or the handheld?
It's still the same stuff, it's, yeah, you gotta, sometimes you gotta hang out the window and.
When's the mobile unit coming? Because I saw it was in here.
We just bought it.
Oh, it's already here?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just gotta
set it,
get it
get an appointment to get it set up.
Yeah, and then supposedly that's even faster, so that'll be even better.
Before you move on, can I
Yeah.
piggyback on that?
I guess so.
So what we've discovered is that, if people do not provide the town access to changing out the equipment, we have the ability, and we should have talked to Nate, our town attorney, about this. We'll need to determine a fee for having, maintaining the existing equipment. So if you're familiar with NICEAG, recently it's been swapping out to remote. There are some people who are declining it, and NICEAG is charging a fee to keep your original.
Her husband's company does the same thing. He does.
So,
Family issues.
It's not a family issue. It's that her husband's company does the same thing.
so
So they get the water.
So
Yeah.
so what we'll need to do, if anybody does end up is not willing to let us change out to the remote, is that when we have that final number, we'll be doing an internal calculation. And we'll bring you the logic behind that calculation. And really you account for literally everything from, the water operator is in the highway barn. They, at the time, the clock starts ticking from the time they leave they drive to the site, they do the reading, they come back to the highway barn. And then any other administrative cost, as well as the use, there's a cost associated with using the vehicle and the gas, like there's ways to do these calculations. All that underlying logic feeds into the determination of a fee, and on an annual basis, we will have to adjust that fee in the organization meeting. And to accommodate the costs associated with that. So that's a completely legal, appropriate way to do it but we won't know the final amount, until on a year, it'll be determined on a year-to-year basis based on if you have a lot of people, which I certainly hope would not be the case, because these are so much better for the town overall. It would be cheaper, obviously. If it's, a handful, the price goes up, the fewer people there are, essentially. So that's just a heads up, that will be coming when this process is wrapped up.
But everybody pays the same fee regardless of whether they're 2 miles from the barn or 10 miles, right?
Right, fortunately, everybody in the Water District 3 is not too terribly far, so we would do the calculations on how much it takes to do the whole system, of how many units there are divided by the number of households, and that becomes the calculation. Because you don't gotta go to someone's house and then drive all the way back and then be like, okay, well, your bill is, and then somebody can go back at, like that doesn't
Yeah.
make sense.
Well, we're not 100% sure how it's gonna work with the new software either.
Right.
So,
So we're gonna test run it in August.
Yeah.
And that's gonna help give us some more information and underlying logic, and then the intention would be the bill after, which August, so the water reading in August, September, October, November, do a reading in November, is that right?
Yep.
And then if everything worked out, that would be the first billing cycle where a fee would be imposed based on the information learned in August, so.
Have you gotten any pushback on switching to
Just-
the automatic,
just-
or is it just the lack of contact?
just one person, the rest of everyone, the other 30 are just, we can't get a hold of them. Okay. So. We haven't had any problems really, and I think that, her was just a wireless thing or something.
Mhm. Yeah, and so it makes sense just to have it be and just go that approach, but I just wanted to give the board a early notice that will be coming.
All right. And then I got one more thing, which is pretty big, but I think.
Saving the best for last.
Yeah,
Burying the lead.
I think the intention tonight is to just I'm just gonna give my thoughts to you about something. And then I think we'll touch on it throughout the year, but as of right now, the highway department, as you guys know, we mow the cemeteries, we will come up here to the town hall if they need, like a toilet fixed or something like that. We mow the town properties. And I got 2 guys now that are certified. They don't have a license for water, but they're certified, so they're working on water stuff. So we're doing a lot of stuff that is legal. It's all good.
But it's not highway work.
Right, it's not highway. So we're all good right now, but I think in the future, we have to look out for that kind of work. And I think that we should look into becoming a DPW.
Yeah.
Mainly because, you know, if we do get another highway superintendent, and they decide they don't want to do any of this stuff. The board can say, yes, you have to do it, but the priority will be way down here. You know, the highway superintendent can say, okay, you know, I'll mow the cemeteries, but it's gonna be, you know, twice a
When we
year,
can get to it, yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And I don't think that, I wouldn't want to see that, and I don't think the town wants that either. And I think if you become a DPW, it makes it obvious to somebody that's driving by, like, oh, you know, that's the DPW, they're doing, you know, other kinds of work than just highway, and you know, that, I guess I'm rambling now. but-
No, you've done a great job. So Scott brought this idea to me before it's not on the agenda for tonight. We wanted to just introduce it as, this was Scott's original idea. I kicked the tires on it with the town attorney. It's a very doable process. We actually already talked to the comptroller's office. It would have 0 impact on any budgeting. All the bookkeeping side wouldn't change in the slightest. So there's no issue on that side. It really involves simply the passing of a local law. Scott would still be an elected highway superintendent, and we would appoint him to also be the director of public works. So it's a like, which is all to say that this is a completely conceivable, executable option. What I'd like to do is I would like to bring it back to the town board next at our next meeting to start a conversation and start talking about what, you know, what that would mean for the town. In my personal opinion, I think this would right size what we're already doing into a more appropriate department than in highway alone. And I'm very grateful because I've lived in a town with the highway superintendent who didn't want to do anything, and the town board had no power to do anything about it. I'm grateful to have Scott as a partner who's thinking for the long-term longevity of the town and you know, taking these activities, because we used to pay for mowing, and Scott came to us and said, I can do it for less. You buy a mower and you buy a trailer, and we're gonna do it. We're gonna cut costs, and he did. So my idea would be that we would have multiple meetings to start, you know, really unpacking this and give the public an opportunity to understand what we would be considering in the town board to get all their questions asked over, you know, a couple month process at least. So that's just,
I mean, it doesn't sound like there's any downside.
we've yet to find one, but maybe one exists that we haven't thought of. So
It's really a name change.
it really is a name change.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what it boils down to, because we're a town of less than 10,000 people. So the goal, everybody, is to get 5,001 person, 5,000 people, so we can get some benefits from being a town of that size, but stay under 10,000. So that's like the ideal from an administrative
I
standpoint.
don't think they're.
I don't like partisan. I brought many of you guys, it's reasonable. Okay, so was there anything, thank you so much for coming and talking to us, Scott. Did anybody have any questions?
I just want to say, I think you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
You got your new pipe.
Yeah, I do.
My pipe's old.
That's
That's the state highway.
Yeah, you're
Good luck with that.
You can move, you can move to one of Scott's very well maintained roads. Well, thank you so much.
Running on the side of the roads.
I'm sorry,
The side of the road shoulders are great for running them.
well, I
Nice
can,
and smooth.
I can say Scott's a great partner to have for a town supervisor, so thank you for being here and thank you for coming and
Yeah,
sharing your
thank you.
good work.
Thanks, Scott.
You got a great department. And you are very welcome to stay, but seeing as how I know that you start work at least 6:30, and I bet you're up before that, then you'll,
Yeah, poor dog.
no. Are they all registered? We're doing a dog center.
I'm going to get. That was a mistake. wasn't it? I shouldn't have said that.
I'm saving you, Scott. You're welcome. Thank you
All
so
right, on
much.
that note, I think I will leave.
Before I roped into another meeting,
Yeah.
he always comes to my town hall and gets roped into a meeting.
Curious question, who's the paving company you guys
Seneca Stone. Yeah. They're up,
My driveway was way higher than that, because I wanted to put a blacktop driveway in a rabbit run, 20K.
Wow.
About over died.
Yeah.
And you just said 7,500 for this parking lot?
No, not the whole thing.
Just a
Long
piece of it.
so
31 or 32.
yeah.
I can't even read this with my glasses on, but maybe. That's take it.
Oh,
She's letting you escape. Okay, she's nicer than I am.
All right.
Thank you so much, Scott. Reviewed, and that's how we approved.
So there'd be a map of it or anything.
No, there's not an official
Okay.
official map, but Scott was comfortable because it's not gonna disrupt the roadway,
pavement.
it's just gonna go, it's not gonna disrupt the pavement, that's right. So this is, I only printed one copy, if anybody here in the town board would like to read it,
So the other question, so the in yellow on the back page there,
yeah.
is that something that's coming or no?
Yeah, so we just, so exhibit A was, that will have, basically the property specification and, we can't, hold on. That may have been supposed to be removed and I didn't cover it.
That's why I wasn't sure if that appendix was the map or something.
No, because oh, yes, I'm sorry, it is. So they provided, NICEAG provided materials that go along with this, the Scott reviewed. Thank you for bringing me
Okay.
back into the process. So Scott has reviewed and approved their plan. We will add that to that. And then the town attorney has also reviewed it and was fine with it.
Who pays for this?
So we went into contract with them for up to, we already executed that like a month ago. And they're paying the up to $1,000 for legal services. They're paying for all the work. All the physical work's being paid for by them. Additionally, we negotiated that they're gonna pay the town up to $1,000 for a documented legal cost because our attorney put this together. And if you think that this entity is fun to work with as a private citizen, our attorney happens to work in the NICEAG building and could not find anybody in NICEAG who understood which department he was supposed to be interacting with. So he actually wrote this himself without NICEAG's involvement, and then NICEAG subsequently a representative from NICEAG approved it. So it was a deeply convoluted process, but
So is this what will get filed with county?
yes, that's the best of my understanding, yes.
Yeah.
So this will be and it is subject to permissive referendum. So if somebody triggers a permissive referendum. Okay. So.
Yeah, I move the resolution.
So can I say that there is, I want to make one amendment. Nate, town attorney did this resolution and I caught one error that I want to make sure it's included. It's the second whereas pursuant to this agreement, the town agreed to enter into an agreement. I would like to include with the property owner and NICEAG because this agreement actually, is directly with the property owner and then the property owner has the agreement with NICEAG directly. We're obviously,
What line is that?
Right.
this,
Second
the
word.
second line, so I want to include the property owner and NICEAG, because I want to cover all of our items, because it's in fact,
But that doesn't change this
it
document.
does not change the document at all. Nope, it's just the resolution for clarity.
I'll second.
Excellent. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Can we just go back to the parking lot? So we have it in we're gonna get an estimate on lighting or something.
Yeah, I put it in my follow-up. That's that's not a part of our work plan. We will absolutely add that. At this point, I don't know what that process is gonna look like, so, but we will add it to our workload.
Quick question on that.
Yes, sir.
So the path from the laundromat comes up back there, doesn't it? Is that where the people come from or?
Yes. Yep.
back in
Yep, down
corners.
the hillside.
Yep.
Yep. Sure do. Yep, including the deputy mayor. I saw walk through there the other day, so it is a well-trod community path, common path. Not to put the deputy mayor on the spot. Okay, thank you. Let's move on. So that brings us to just an update on May 31st. We had we do have minutes available, and if you go on the town's website for May 31st, you can actually see the presentation that MRB Group, who's the town engineer, put together and presented in a public meeting. And we received an update at that meeting for whether or not there was interest in water extension or connection, case may be, for a stretch of Route 96 or some portions of Route 96. And the town board had authorized an update of a study that was originally completed, that was originally done in 2016 for a potential water line. The town board approved spending $2,500 to update that. And the reason the town board did that was because we had received requests from multiple potential users along the Route 96 corridor with concerns about their water quality or water accessibility. So this was a public information session. MRB presented what the overall cost would be to property owners within, the areas impacted. Obviously, the option one ran the entire length from the south end of the village all the way to Cold Springs Road, which is where the Water District 3 terminates. The other option, that was the most expensive per property owner. And part of that was because a significant part of that was dealing with bedrock and crossing to Gannett Creek. Two crossings of Gannett Creek. Yes, you're right.
Gannett Creek again.
Yes. So 2 creek crossings plus bedrock drive price points right up. The second option was an extension, which was a line from the south end of the village to Gannett Park Road, where the Hollyville house is. And a third potential route was from Cold Springs north, so where it would be a connection to Water District 3, Cold Springs north to the northern property of the Smart Start preschool. They've been having water quality issues. And so they've approached the town before about water. And so I would encourage anybody from the public who didn't get a chance to see it, that the meeting recording is available, as well as the presentation. At the end of the day, the way water largely works is that in New York State is that it is largely controlled with town board input, certainly by the property owner's willingness to pay the costs associated with it, because it's a special district. And so property owners in fairly sizable numbers would have to be comfortable with long-term debt. The way those estimates were put together was debt service, water estimated use, and the debt cycle was estimated at about 3%. I've done some preliminary conversations with a couple different entities, including RCAP, who's coming up on the agenda. It is unlikely the town would be eligible for federally funded subsidization of any of those potential lines, because what typically drives those subsidies are higher rates of poverty or income based, and also environmental contamination based. So we certainly don't want any more oil spills. Something like that really pollutes water quality really drives up your likelihood of getting federal support. So these would largely be costs we could anticipate, property owners could anticipate as being borne by the property owners themselves. Additionally, and I'm pleased to welcome some rabbit runners. So I'm gonna start calling you guys residents of Rabbit Run. And well, rabbit hoppers doesn't sound right. Rabbit runners, if it's Rabbit Run, is where I was getting the name from. Change the name of the street, petition for that. But there was interest, and I appreciate, many residents on Rabbit Run also came to the meeting, with wanting to find out if it would be possible to extend, if a water line did come down to Zeganic Park, which is right across the street, obviously, from Rabbit Run, would it be possible for them to connect? And the answer is, as I expressed to everybody, we put people on the moon. It's possibility is not the challenge. Technology is not the challenge. Funding is a challenge, and willingness of property owners and the willingness of the town to support those developments. So
So I think we all got this email from Rebecca Schneider.
Mhm.
Could we discuss that in light of all the water? I mean, she's water expert.
right, so
She was concerned we were doing this before, as we're just entering into the comprehensive plan. It should not be coordinated.
Well, I think
Yeah,
we're
but
just
that's
doing
something-
policies.
Yeah,
right?
that
We're not
was what
approving
was added late.
district.
I think her input was that we should look at the whole water situation in the town before we do anything with other water districts.
and I would say that, like I said, New York State really puts the property owners in the driver's seat. I can tell you, we're gonna be getting a request for water from Grassroots probably this month.
Right.
We've had other requests for water, and those requests for water are treated the same way any other request for water is, in the sense that property owners have the right under town water law to ask for water. And then it's the process of the town board, the state law stipulates the process the town board should go through to determine whether or not it's in the public's interest.
Right.
And the part of that is that you should review your plans, you should review your policies. We do have a comprehensive plan. While we're replacing the comprehensive plan, we still have an existing comprehensive plan. It doesn't negate, I would personally be reluctant to tell property owners who are experiencing water quality issues, who may have neighbors who are willing to pay for a water district, that I'm not willing to even entertain having a conversation with them when they're struggling with quality water.
But the relationship between the water and the comprehensive plan, you're basically saying they don't interrelate, because people who want water can apply for it no matter where they are in the town.
They can't, the town board has the ability as part of the process to approve a water district, goes through a review process and should make a determination whether or not the creation of that water district is in the public's interest. So the town board does have a review
So at that
process.
point,
Yeah, and this is all, town water law also stipulates the process by which we would
What's a
need to go.
special district?
It's a special district, there are legal processes, there's public hearings. I would certainly not, it will not be a secretive process by any stretch. This would all be happening in the public sphere, and I would encourage anyone in favor or opposed to speak their mind as part of that process. But, frankly, we're always gonna be going through a comprehensive plan or a zoning update. Like, that's literally the life cycle of the town. We would have been doing the comprehensive plan earlier, if not for the fact that COVID entered. We were scheduled to do it earlier.
And the comprehensive plan will look at it holistically,
right,
but if there is an individual road or two or an area that are specifically needed comments or issues addressed now.
I think we
That's-
need to respond to Rebecca.
Sure, yeah,
if
no,
you would.
I would be happy to,
Okay.
yeah.
I didn't get it.
Yeah, yes, you did, you're the first one on her. on her email.
Oh, we're
I haven't
having
gotten it
email
yet.
problems.
Haven't gotten it yet then.
I'm sure everybody gets a copy of it.
I
do.
got it.
Okay,
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if I went to,
I think it came on 2 days ago, yesterday or something.
yeah, it came in my
Maybe
town.
yesterday.
Right, I'll look.
So I think it would be appropriate for the town board to solicit feedback from the planning board, to solicit feedback from the comprehensive plan steering committee. It would be responsible, I think, for the town to ask those committees what their opinion is. They're meant to help advise on those issues, so there would be no reason we wouldn't ask for those feedback.
Did you get it, Liz?
She's
So
reading
this
it
is on
now.
the RCAP.
No,
no, there was another one prior to that.
this was Rebecca kind of as the water expert on the planning, board,
Is that different then?
and she's on the comprehensive plan committee.
That's different. It
Oh,
was, it
okay,
came
it's
in
different.
before that.
Okay.
I'll make sure.
That's not the
that-
one.
Carissa, I'll make sure you get a copy. and
You
so
are
you
the
can-
first one on the.
Did you, cause I don't think, did you get a copy? Okay.
There'd be a town to be listening.
Yeah, it's this one that sent to
But
all of
that
us.
email's not working.
Well, it is, and that's why I'm encouraging everybody to use
This
their
is the archive
non.gov email, well, because I'm getting my .gov emails, I'm just getting them on a delay, because like Nancy's emailed me at midnight for things that actually she sent an email.
Really?
Yeah,
What-
so
what address
I'm
did
getting
she
my
use
stuff,
for
I'm
me?
getting it on a delayed cycle, but
I haven't gotten it January 6th.
January
June
6th.
6th.
Oh,
sorry.
okay,
I read that wrong,
okay, well,
but I will take a look at that. But I do think that they could be done interchangeably. In terms of working through the comp plan and looking at individual needs from if we're being approached by residents.
we've done, and we have done it obviously off cycle before, I mean, we've had multiple property owners, Sterling Road is most recent, the health department came and said they absolutely categorically have to be connected to public water, and
Who's this?
the Durling Road property, that was the last addition we put on. And because the health department, there was such there were such health issues associated with that parcel in Durling Road, that's why we ended up doing a connection. Not last year, I didn't do it, the supervisor.
Yeah, well, they
this
paid for
year.
that.
And, oh, yeah, and they
Yeah.
pay for it, and that's the thing, this is, if it goes through, costs are all borne by the property owners.
And that's not a water district.
No, it's a water extension, but
Yeah.
you treat, but let's learn all these fun things,
Yeah.
which is that extensions and new districts are treated identically in terms of responsibility. It's just in the functionality of how they connect.
So do we need to hear from Rabbit Run tonight?
Well,
Is that, or are you just listening to us? What's the,
We were heard last time we were here. You had something you wanted to share.
is that, I mean, I don't want to.
If that is the willingness of the board to hear, I'm sure, I'm fine with that. All right,
All right, well, I mean, I got the updated or the proposed updates. For the water policy from the board. And I just have some questions about that and how it relates to Rabbit Run Road because. We're not really a committee, we're just a bunch of people who live in the area. And I'm thinking maybe we need to be more, we have to formalize ourselves a little bit better to make this work. I'm not quite sure, but that's beside the point. I'm kind of confused. Does this change anything that you said to us last time we were here?
no, so,
It's more clarification?
yes, ma'am.
Because it never went on to the 5% denial, and I don't know if that's because this doesn't cover that stage of the process. Or,
This doesn't cover the stage, so just before we had, just one moment, did anybody else have anything they wanted to ask or say about the May 31st meeting before we move on to the next item, which is the draft policy?
Question on that,
Yes.
because I was on the phone. So that meeting, this is a question, did not include Rabbit Run?
Well,
So,
nobody was
because-
excluded, but
No,
they
yeah, I know that, but it was mostly the 96
it was the
corridor.
96
And then I
corridor.
heard a bunch about Rabbit Run, and I was
Right.
like, oh, gosh, I wonder what. So,
that we kind of felt left out, just because we.
I
had-
didn't know you guys wanted water, so I don't know if anybody else, you know.
There's no way that we actually knew this thing was going through, so it was like, oh, there's water coming down 96. Why can't they come into the back?
Okay.
Yeah. And so we wanted to know if.
Well,
there's
not
any
after
way
that,
to
because you were at the
flow.
meeting. So we were successful
After the
in,
two proposals had already gone through.
Oh.
no,
There's nothing
nothing's
done.
been approved. Yeah.
The scenarios. Yeah.
Yeah.
We heard about the three scenarios.
We needed a fourth scenario.
Well,
Okay.
Like to be a fourth scenario.
just to clarify how that happened, is literally we were updating a plan that had already been done.
Yeah,
So
from a
that
couple
was a
years ago.
reflection of the 2016. Rather one was not,
And that
part
was
of that
fine, except
2016.
we didn't realize that.
yeah,
But then we had heard about it and we
Sure.
thought, okay, everybody on the street seemed to all be
Are you
in
guys-
agreement.
You guys talking the length of Rabbit Run then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
There's a lot
how
of
long
people
is that
here.
road?
It's about a mile
Mile.
Is it miles?
from one end to the other.
Okay.
Don't have that many.
Because it actually comes up from South Street on Rabbit Run this way.
Oh, it does.
So I don't know.
There's a
if it
spur
would
then?
be- Yeah, I don't know. like,
That's
in
that
the
old
plans.
water district, right?
yeah, so
That's the non-water.
that's the
Yeah.
non-water district.
So it
Yeah.
was like, apparently we could not connect to that.
Right.
Right,
So
yeah.
it would come
That's not
up
an us
from
thing. Yeah, yeah.
96 of
Yeah.
Rabbit Run and then stop on the other side of Kylie's.
That's gonna cost a fortune.
Well,
Well, I'm just, you-
Supervisor Thomas always said it was $1 million a mile.
It's now, we can now tell you it's 135 feet, or I'm sorry, $135 per foot. Provided that there's nothing obstructing the installation.
Like bedrock. Or-
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So those are the best numbers today that we have. Nobody, the
That's
town
less.
board, what?
That's only $750 million.
Well, there you go. So it's gotten cheaper. Well, that doesn't, that,
That's a bargain.
Well,
I'll take that.
so that, but that only includes the pipe. That's not including the hydrants. That's not including connections. That's not.
That's my trouble with MRB. They don't tell you the whole answer. Elizabeth always said it's $1 million a mile,
It's
because you
probably-
need to put all of that stuff in.
Well, no, and in the presentation, if you go through it, they lay out, costs associated with it. It's just when a resident asked specifically, how much does it cost for that pipe? And that's what the
Yeah,
estimate.
not
is based on.
$135 a foot.
No, but for that pipe,
You wanna
it
see?
is essentially to install.
Oh, no, that's something else.
So I'm sorry. So why don't you finish what you had to say, and then we'll go on to the town board's discussion of the policy draft.
Okay, so let me see. So. The way it looks is that the bigger the district, the cheaper the cost per individual. Am I correct in thinking that?
The denser the
The
district.
density,
Yes,
well,
the
right, the density, not the length,
Yeah.
right, the density of the district. Okay, and then, the fact that there are some people on Rabbit Run Road who are already receiving water from the village. How does that connect to what we're asking for? Should we be asking them if they want to join the?
You should ask.
Or do they have to join the thing?
They do not.
Okay.
So you have to
we
have a
could-
contiguous map
Mhm.
of from a point A to point B, and everybody within that point A to point B is part of the impacted area. So you can exclude people who are on the periphery,
Mhm.
right? You can't exclude people who are in the interior.
But I thought you said we couldn't connect to.
You may
the
not connect to
existing
it.
line,
You
so
can't.
Yeah,
they-
but wouldn't you connect them?
they're
If they
charging
wanted
us.
to.
No, what I mean is their water line comes down, so wouldn't,
No.
Unless they were-
already have the water.
If they wanted to be a part of the new water district, they certainly would be
Uh.
eligible for being included. But we don't automatically put anybody in.
So what, the reason why I'm asking that question is because if you go all the way up to South Street. You get a circle, right? And I always understood that you don't like dead ends, and then instead you'd be creating a dead end at the end of our property.
With the 96 in?
No,
No,
at the other,
Up
the South Street side.
So you go down South Street, you take a left on Rabbit Run, you come up Rabbit Run, and 3 houses on the left, the water stops. Like it comes from the village.
From this end,
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
village
yeah,
water.
South Street.
Yes.
For town residents.
Right,
Yes.
so there's 1, 2, 3, there's 4 houses on Rabbit Run that have water right now as part of that district.
No, I don't think,
There's the older woman with the rabbit, there's
Yeah.
Paco,
yeah,
there's the older woman across the street.
yeah,
on
but
the-
she gets it from her
South Street.
South Street.
Yeah, but that's connected to the same.
But anyway,
So let's just go over, what
Okay.
do
so
you
the
need to
point
know?
is, you can't, they are gonna be part of our water district if we're allowed to be on it because they are already connected.
Right, I understand that, but you would, it doesn't make a circle then, it stops, right?
Yeah.
And
Right, because
There's
you can't,
methods to handle.
Okay.
you can't
all right,
join the
that's fine.
village
Yeah.
water.
There's methods to handle that with flushings and stuff.
Okay, all right, it was a little confusing for me. All right, so. Is this, the Smart Start proposal? Is in the process now?
no, nothing's in process.
So we can still join the Smart Start proposal?
If sufficient property owners along the entire 96 corridor are interested. And the challenge with that particular corridor is going to be that a center portion south of the creek is in a New York State agricultural district, and so it would have to be reviewed by New York State. So that would be a consideration by the town of whether or not it's appropriate to run water through a state agricultural district, plus the state would have a say in that as well. So that's why that makes it that route that
route.
much more unlikely.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't mean it's impossible, it just means that those are considerations.
But you're nowhere near smarts.
No.
No, Dave, there was
So-
a.
So we would have to work on Water District 1,
Right.
and then they would be a new water district that would
Right.
connect into Water District 1.
Under this proposal, no.
No, I
Yeah,
understand under
yeah.
this one, but that would make more sense for them. Because we have to deal with Water District 1. At some point anyway, that's kind of an impending issue.
Confusing.
It is
So-
confusing. We're confused, it's confusing.
Well, so,
So
yeah.
would we? Does it make sense to try to help them with the petitioning process?
so that's what this policy is. Do you want to say something about
Well, the
that?
policy just mirrors the state law.
Well, no, the policy
State.
actually gives them a way to ask us to.
Oh,
to
for us,
proceed-
well,
for
that's
us
one of
to
the 2 ways
initiate
to
one.
do it.
Right, yes, but the policy allows us to stipulate what we expect. So we don't need a policy under state law to initiate a water district.
Right.
But do you want to initiate a water district for people who don't want a water district? I don't.
Well,
That's,
that's what I'm wondering if they
right.
want to do their,
That's,
so this outlines the process by which I'm suggesting through feedback from, we have talked about this at the town board meeting before, talking to staff. The meeting, the public information session was really helpful because it helped me think about additional things we might want to include. This would outline the process by which we say, hey, instead of going out and hiring your own attorney, we will give you a form you can fill out, and we're going to be asking for some certain information and things that I want to ask for on a petition form that we can provide. What I'm proposing is we're going to ask, for owner and contact information, tax parcel number, and as well as interested property owners should indicate the range of expenses they'd be willing to pay for water, including debt service, water, etc., on a monthly or yearly basis, as well as acknowledge that property owners are required to pay for the hookup expenses associated with the formation of the new district extension. Those are things that I think should be on a petition form so that we are acting as good partners with one another. The triggering the process to create a water district is expensive, and the town is taking a risk that the district might fail, and then we have to eat the costs. So what I'd like to do is create a process that makes it easier for property owners to request water without having to go hire their own independent attorney to petition us, which is what Grassroots is doing right now. And our town attorney has worked with their attorney to move forward on a petition. That's route 1. Route 2 is the town's providing a framework for, you're right, it's under state water law that we can initiate one. This is giving the framework by which the town board is saying, we want to know these things before we're going to start spending general taxpayer money without assurance that we're going to get
Yeah.
the money back.
Mhm.
Because I don't want another failed water district. If property owners don't want one, I also don't want to impose water on people who are not interested in realistically paying the costs associated with it. So, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, as an original member of District 3. The harks back to the
she's the matriarch
Yes,
of
Bill.
District 3.
gas bill there. As I recall from many discussions about this. The costs, some of the costs that are assumed by District 3. If the line was extended in one of the options that required it to go across Gannett Creek. Some of that cost would have to be shared by the current District 3 members, right?
No, no.
All right, just ask.
No, it's a very, very fair concern. No, it would truly be borne
Because I
by,
mean, we
can-
bore
absolutely.
the cost of
Yeah.
the
and just so you know,
stirring thing.
that as new people have been added to your district, they have started paying debt share, the same way
Yes.
you have been paying debt share. This would be, there's no way this project could even conceivably go through before your debt service is paid off, because your debt service is coming up due at the end of
Yeah,
next
well.
year. So they wouldn't be paying into your debt service. If it did happen, there is going to be not debt service anymore, but there is going to be money that has to be collected basically to start funding reserves in order to pay for ongoing maintenance and repairs. They would contribute to that.
Right.
But you would not, as Water District 3, be stuck with costs associated with helping property owners that are not currently part of Water District 3. And that's important.
Which makes
Oh,
total
yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Why would they pay for something?
Exactly.
that they have to
But I
pay for?
mean-
They've already paid, makes sense.
Okay,
Does some of this suggest that it might be better to work with the village in terms of getting the people water on the other side of the creek? And spend more of the
yeah, and that's,
town's energy and resources on south of the creek?
So the village, if we did something north of the creek, the village isn't going to do anything with the water district, because they actually aren't allowed to, because we're the municipality that water district would be in. It would be the town's responsibility. We would buy village water. So we need their sign up on that, we can sign on to it, but they're not gonna do a water district for properties outside the village. That's a non-starter.
Where is the
Well,
municipal line? Where is the village in town on Rabbit Run?
it goes out South Street and then it.
No,
Then
no,
it
no,
turns
no,
down.
where's the
Where's the-
town of Ulysses and the village of
That's
Tewksbury?
all, that's all. By large,
It's where the village starts further down South Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, into the village.
Not-
We were on Marchmont, we lived on Marchmont and we were in the village. When we drove down South Street, you passed the sign, that's the sign that says.
Exactly.
So I love Rabbit Run, is it?
Fully in the town. Right, okay.
yes, ma'am.
So when, in terms of relationship with the village and their water system. I have to admit that I tend to be a little bit, I've said some negative experiences with trying to cooperate with the village about water. Back in the early days of the working, and, you know, things that the village did that to make it harder for us. And their insistence that they had to charge us significantly more than they charged their in-village customers to get water, which is why we get water from Bolton Point.
Right,
And I'd be a little concerned that if there's any discussion of where water comes from, for if we're gonna have a district that is actually a town district rather than a village district, that we don't get enmeshed in some idea of buying water from Twinsburg, because that's always been an issue. And it has always worked out badly for the town.
So if there was a line run along 96 from the village line to Teganic Park, the only place we could buy water from, if it terminated at Teganic Park, the only place we could buy water from is the village. We do have users, Pars purchases water through the village, as well as 3 other users associated with Water District 1. The SureSafe property is connected under their own water district. Unless the line extends up 96 from existing Water District 3, there's the only other source for water is the village. I know the village is, I've had conversations with them. They have more water than they can use now that they've tapped into their secondary source, so they are actively interested in selling water. But it certainly factors into the cost, so.
Well, and I think that one of the reasons why the contract with Bolton Point was done the way it was because we didn't want to pay extra money to buy it from Trumansburg. I think that there was some real concern that Trumansburg water system was undercapitalized and that they were trying to build up their capital a little bit more by charging us more. And I think that given all we went through to get the Water District 3, there are many of us who have long enough memories to remember the kinds of shenanigans that the village worked on to try to thwart some of our efforts. So I think we should go into any of that with eyes wide open. And, you know,
I appreciate that. Yeah.
BS detectors
yeah,
on.
okay.
So I have another question here, and that is, when it says that the property owners to indicate the range of expense they would be willing to pay for the water, debt service, water, et cetera, on a monthly or yearly basis, as well as acknowledge the property owners are required to pay the hookup. Okay, so how do we know what we can't give you an idea about that because we don't know what that
They're
is.
just asking you, what are you willing to
What are
pay?
you willing to pay?
And out of that,
No, are you willing to pay $500 a year? Or are you willing to pay $5,000 a year? Someplace in between, based on your own personal.
And Oh, okay.
We need to
Yes.
give them a better
What you
estimate.
feel
And
comfortable.
we can do that.
and
No,
what
we
you're
do,
doing.
we have estimates based on the ones we've already done. I'm not gonna be able to put together an estimate unless we have,
Yeah,
we're gonna have to pay money to have an estimate done.
But we can do the estimate.
I can't. do
but
the
I
estimate.
think it's more
Richard, I
like,
could do the
we
estimate.
don't want to go through this process if it ends up being
that
$1 million.
Might not be good numbers, I mean, I
Very
don't know.
exaggerate right now.
We could take a
Um,
stab at it.
Well, I think
So
think you kind of nailed the problem on the head, and that is if I was to go up and try to petition my neighbors and say, hey, would you like to join this water district? They'll say, well, you know,
How much is it?
how much is it gonna cost me? And well, how much are you willing to spend? And some people on that road might be willing to spend 5,000 a year, some people might only be able to spend 500. I mean, well, but we don't even know what we're gonna be divvying it out amongst, so I mean, how many
The debt
residents?
service, yeah, well, I mean, so I very much hear what you're saying. I come from personal experience about why I included this. Because as I mentioned in the town board, that meeting, I'm in a district that failed. And it failed because the numbers provided to the property owner ended up being higher than what they had originally estimated, and a property owner backed out. So what I want to make sure that however we do this, that we're front loading as much information to property owners, because if you have a property owner, if one neighbor says I'm willing to pay 5,000, and another property owner says I'm only willing to pay 500, you can pretty much guess that the property owner with the 500 is going to vote no. And if a sizable enough percentage of property owners vote no, the district fails.
Right, but I don't think that's true, because, if you only know, once you have the total amount, you only know how much each person is gonna pay, so that you're not giving them a range. You're not saying to them, okay, if we get this water district, it'll cost you somewhere between this and this.
Right, so
Can you
the-
pay for that?
So
It's
that's,
not-
so you can do a pro forma. If there are, how many people are on the road? 30 houses, maybe 15? How many houses are on Rabbit Run?
Well, it's property, so.
15?
But well, he's at 96 as well as going into Rabbit Run Road. I mean,
It would
So-
have to.
So, yeah, I mean, for yours, you would have to, so there's cost associated with coming up with some of these numbers, even, I mean, we can certainly try to do internal numbers that cannot take into account for the geology. You don't know the final numbers until the second vote.
Understandable, but
Yeah.
can we get it closer
Right,
to
range.
500 to 5,000?
Well,
I think
no.
that's, I mean, we get that you can't say exactly until you know how many houses and what the topography is, recognizing the challenges that occur with bedrock or whatever. But I mean, like, maybe just a closer estimate, back of the envelope kind of thing.
Yes, but sometimes
Per
we
household.
get requests for water, and there's no way to do a back of the envelope request with a person on the fly. For instance, now that we know Rabbit Run has some interest, we can get numbers, but right now this document is supposed to be posted as an education document, so.
Okay.
Because I can tell you
Yeah.
from personal experience, I get calls from people who are like, my water's not great, I think it'd be great if we ran a water line down this road, and I say, okay. So let me walk you through the process for how that actually works, and they're like, I don't think I'd ever want to pay anywhere near that, and it's like, okay, well, I'm glad we had this conversation, what we're trying to do with this policy is be transparent and also work in partnership with property owners to understand that there are costs associated with this and be not to scare in making a vote to initiate, and this is under this process, it'd be the town board initiating, not the property owners. The town board is taking a gamble with their vote that money that they're now going to spend on doing a lot of engineering, which is costly, is going to get recouped. And that the base taxpayer isn't going to end up paying for
We're
it.
not gonna do that unless we have a great chance of success.
Right, and so one of the things I was suggesting is understanding what property owners may be willing to pay. I can tell you, this is one of the questions of how much do you currently pay for water is on the proposed water survey.
What
You
is,
know-
what is District 3 paying?
I can't tell you off the top of my head.
How much you
can't-
pay a month? What do you
Chris,
pay?
Chris, I can't.
For
For debt service.
Yeah. all of it,
Three things.
all of it, yeah.
Usage is like $10 per 1,000 gallons,
Yeah.
and operations and maintenance and the debt service on the tax bill is close to $600 a year.
Right, so that was negotiated with zero interest. Wasn't that a
Mhm.
zero interest
Yeah.
loan?
It's, escalates.
I think there's ways we.
2% a
we
year.
can this form. We haven't
It is.
issued it at all. So this was up for discussion and we're really glad you guys are here. And I think you guys can continue your discussions with your neighbors to see if there is that continued support for the water line coming up through Rapid Run. And then I'm imagining we're gonna approve this with forms over another meeting or two.
Well, I'd like to bring this back. I mean, so I'm just being mindful of the time also. And we have other.
Just a quick question on this whole thing, because it says that how much are you willing to pay on a monthly basis? We don't have a water meter. We just have a well. So we don't even know what our
Right,
usage
you don't know
is.
what you're using.
So it's kind of a weird question to ask.
How
us
many people in your
because
house?
Well, I think there's
right
ways
now
we
it's
can
two
work with you
in our
to
household.
kind of come up with some
Right, you get-
estimates too on that.
There's a calculation that you can use. to
That's a-
estimate.
Yeah.
That's just, you're 150 gallons.
A lot of well problems, and we do not use what a typical typical
So you're
family
right.
does use.
Yeah.
We're very water conscious,
Right.
you know, so we.
So they figure 100 gallons a day.
Rainwater To water our garden. we
Right.
don't use it.
It's probably the water usage is probably the lowest of the.
I just have one question. for
Probably
Chris.
the
How
lowest
many
of the
people
debt
are in
service.
the mission?
Right. No, I think we can work with
Okay.
you
Yeah.
to fill out this form, but if you can.
Okay.
Talking to our neighbors.
Yeah.
Then come under.
Okay, yes, that's what I was thinking, you know, that's how we have to do
So just for an example, District 3 in Jacksonville
it.
has 230 houses hooked up. And say that they pay an average of about $600 a month, a whole year,
A year.
$50 a month. But that doesn't include the water usage, which is how much per thousand?
$10.
So plus the water usage. And they got so they have 230 people supporting
I understand,
the district.
yeah,
Rabbit Run has maybe 15 houses.
yeah, I
So
know,
it's gonna be higher.
It's gonna be way higher.
yeah.
I think people recognize that,
I
but
mean,
I
way
think
higher,
people like really wanna know kind of how close to way higher.
Yeah.
way
Yeah, I
higher.
think we do need some kind of a figure, I mean, like, and it can be a range, and it can also be one, I mean, it. That has a caveat of this is not exact, but this is what we're talking, like. And that would be, I think that would be really helpful, for
Us and
having
you.
these conversations, and we get it, we don't want you all to have to spend a bunch of money on. You know, sending out another survey or doing it, you know, and with more contractors to hire, but if maybe we can get the numbers together, we can get a preliminary idea of the number of residents or, you know, people that would be using it, how we would divide it up. Kind of put a extreme scenario and then like a best case for a range, then it would make it a lot easier for us to consult with our, because we're kicking it down the road by not really being able to figure it all.
I just don't see how 15 houses can support a water district.
Well, it would have to
Well,
be,
and-
it would be conditional upon another water
Right.
district
Connect.
existing on 96.
Which would it add 10 more users,
10 users,
according to the.
so that's 25 users.
Right, but
Still-
doesn't it depend on the density and not the number of people?
Well, that's,
Yes.
he's talking about the number of properties and that's what drives it.
Right.
So, okay, so I think this is obviously, there's a lot of conversation we had. I doubt we're gonna have any more. We do have a lot of other items on the agenda. so but-
We appreciate everybody trying to help. us.
Absolutely.
We recognize that it's a lot of work, if y'all came in and we're like.
There was never any inclination to exclude you. It was simply an update of a previous plan. So I'm grateful that you showed up.
We absolutely appreciate everyone's.
Yeah, we don't want you to be here till 10 o'clock either. so-
Yeah.
My 3-month-old would be very happy if I returned, so I appreciate that. So moving on, elected public official conference and plan training update. The update is look, for an email to liaisons, with the language that was previously introduced in terms of the trainings. I would like to officially request that you share it with your, boards and committees that may be impacted. So Liz, for comp plan steering, I know you've already discussed it with them. If you want to do it again, great. BZA and planning board, because those are the ones that would be impacted. And I would like to bring this back for a discussion in the second July meeting or the first meeting in August. So that gives plenty of time for dissemination and feedback.
Right, so I'm not gonna be here this
Right.
July 11th.
I know, and so that's why, did you hear me? I said the second meeting in July. I knew I'm working around your schedule, Rich. We will miss you. I hope you're going someplace fun.
Scotland.
Oh,
Nice.
oh, so that's wonderful. Good for you. Okay, so town historian, just as an update, I have a draft job description, Michael. I'm gonna be sending it to you. Carissa has looked at it. Mr. Warren has reached out to me to talk about a transition, because he's getting ready to retire. And so there will be ongoing communications, but, we have a draft job description. Is there anybody else who'd like to look at it for provide feedback?
Okay, we can take a moment.
It's a state job, a state defined job, so a lot of it is state language, so I will send that, Michael, I will send that to you. Okay, under new business, we already did the gatekeeper resolution. Item B, authorizing temporary increase in the hours of the second deputy supervisor. This is related to needing to provide more administrative help to the recreation department. And this would increase Michelle's hours through the end of November, from 32 hours a week to 34 hours a week. The budgetary impact of this is less than $2,000. And it would come out of the rec lines. Will is going to be taking, our rec director is going to be taking some time off, which will help. And the way its salary works is he's not salary, he's paid hourly, so that money can be offset, we think, within existing lines. So there shouldn't be any increase in budgetary costs. It's helping to provide some backup support essentially. In the summer, and then as we transition into the fall, Will has done a marvelous job of growing a program that is bigger than one man can handle, and so we're needing to provide some backfill administratively. So I would like to move increasing Michelle's hours by 2 per week starting June 11th,
And then when,
end of November 2023, so November 30th.
One second.
Any comment, discussion?
Is that enough?
I think it's what's reasonable at this juncture.
Okay, because I know what baseball specifically requires, and I know that would come later.
It comes later. Baseball, so fall is lighter,
Oh, yes.
and then we're planning for winter at
Okay.
that point, so this would cover winter planning also.
Plus
and
all
then-
the adults,
But
right.
be prepared, like, and I've already talked to the town board, right? I have mentioned that, we're gonna have to, because rec is one of those things that is revenue generating, and there is so much demand for programming. People want more and more and more, which is great because they see it's been successful, they can register online, it's, it's great. But that more and more and more results in not having a director who's able to stretch any farther. And so we will be in budget season. We want to talk to you about what's the right way to grow in rec that's sustainable and offset by the increased programming.
So this would just be to help
Get through this year.
through the rest of the year with the adult recs, maybe some summer camp stuff and
Definitely summer camp.
fall and winter.
Definitely summer camp and then fall programming. And it might even allow us to do, there's increased desire for more programming that's existed in the fall than previously. Adults, because the intention has always been to grow this into providing adult services as well as youth. And so there's been desire for adult art programs that are not being already provided. And we're looking at this as a growth potential in the fall. So.
What about the 2 new people, like Rachel and I forget the other woman's name?
So Molly is burning the midnight oil, doing planning and zoning, and buildings, and working on the comp plan part. And Rachel, we allocated a lot of her time towards doing the summer youth employment program. So that might be a place to pivot also with her in the fall, but in the summer, Rachel does not have room in her schedule with the youth employment program to do that. But I'd like to say the youth employment program is going really well, and I'm gonna have Rachel come in and tell you all what a great job she's doing a little bit later after we get rolling, but it's been a really exciting program to bring in house.
we went through this in the finance committee in terms of cash flow and break even, and I think we all need to be aware of the expenses, because it's always a kind of a hidden thing. How much do we break even? And we really don't break even. And we may break even on the program, and we don't break even on the salary of the director.
And that's kind of a model that's pretty common, is we're never gonna break even on the director's position in the same way we're never gonna break even on the planner's position. But those offset costs allow the programming to happen, and we're facilitating everything, a lot of activity in the town. 10%, I told you 10% of the entire school district participated in our track program.
Right.
That's mind-boggling, like a percentage of
Right, yeah.
participation. So we're getting a tremendous amount of positive community support, I think.
Which is great, and I'm all for rec programs and sports. and everything else. But do we have an obligation to make sure our costs are somewhat in line with the revenue?
I think that's a discussion we can have.
Yeah, I think that's a great budget discussion.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
think we need to for the
Sure.
budget discussion.
So there's been a motion and a second. Is there any further questions or discussion on this resolution?
So this will be, will reduce his.
Well, Bill
hours?
has some scheduled time off, for family commitments and because he's not salary, he's paid hourly. When he's not working for us, he's not drawing a salary, he's not drawing a paycheck. And so we plan to offset it. There's not an anticipation that this will require us to go outside the boundaries of the existing budget.
Okay.
So, and again, it'll come down to less than $2,000.
Right.
So,
So I had a question for Michelle, because the SWIP committee. She has a lot of work she does inside for that,
mhm.
and she doesn't have time for us or / them. And so she's increasing her time with that, so I would, in reading her report, she's into a lot of things. So it's a question of, does she need to be doing all of those things, or if she does less and be, say, more effective in a lot of them, because she's spread really thin.
She is, I don't think she can take on more work without increasing her pay.
Yeah, but that's not the question. That was
right.
like. Where do we want her to work? Is kind of where my question is. Because looking at her report, she's got 2 pages of stuff. She's done a little of this and a little of this and a little of this.
Yeah, as budget officer as well as she manages our programming and grants. That's what her
That's
primary
big.
responsibility, and that's.
Yeah,
a lot of
it's all
touching
big.
A lot of different things, yeah. She's comfortable doing this. I think if we add on more things, we need to add on more hours with her.
Well, I'm not talking about adding more things. I'm talking about pulling some things out and just say, maybe this can be put aside and we don't need to do this for now.
I don't know. I can't think of a single thing we're working on currently that we
Mhm.
put aside. And now, and it's not a criticism, but now you're saying, hey, we need to go get estimates to do lighting on the back property. That's gonna be Michelle. That just got put onto her plate.
Right, that would be part of the discussion.
Right, but we've made some commitments in terms of what things we've already taken on. If you're looking through reports and you're seeing things that you don't think she should be working on, I'm happy to have that conversation one-on-one. Or an executive session, if it involves, if it starts involving confidential information. If we're, talking general duties, I feel very confident in Michelle's capabilities and
Yeah, I'm
And
not,
I think
Yeah.
she'd speak
There's a
up if
question.
she was worried about taking on.
well, I've worked with a lot of years. She's ambitious and she likes to do a lot of things. Sometimes I think it helps an employee to start to focus them in fewer areas, because you can use people up. It's really easy to get, I'm ambitious too, but I just say, okay, I gotta let this slide off my plate. Because there's only one of me and I can only do so many things.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm going with it, is
Yeah.
to say, maybe we need to help Michelle and say, hey, don't worry about so many things.
And again, like if there are specific things you want to talk about, at this juncture, I'm not sure what we would take off our plates and still fulfill the obligations we've already committed to. But this goes towards, as we're thinking about adding new projects and adding new
So what is she
activities.
actually gonna do for the 2 hours a week?
So-
Administrative?
It's gonna be administrative. There's a lot associated with when you're dealing with children this summer, she's gonna be dealing a lot with all the forms and making sure everything is synchronized with the number of forms necessary to send your child to summer camp.
It doesn't sound like a lot of time. Is it enough coverage?
Right.
Well,
Like 2
so-
2 hours a
Enough.
week, what can you do?
You're doing
Yeah.
2 hours a week.
well, so right now, this is what I can reasonably tell you we can add. Michelle's not interested in doing 5 hours a week.
Right.
I can't raise the hours for any of my part-time staff and I don't have time to go hire someplace
Right.
else. So I can tell you, I will be backfilling with administration on summer camp this summer as well. So we've already broken out tasks so I will be doing, I'll be the person who's asking the camp director, how are you for your supplies that you need for, sunscreen, all of that stuff. And I will be going to SureSave and buying them and charging the town.
That doesn't seem like a good use.
Well,
Yeah.
but somebody needs to do it and Michelle's capable of adding 2 more hours.
Okay.
I'm gonna be at camping with kids anyway, and I go shopping, so I'm gonna, but it's just that this is what she reasonably thought, to your point, that she reasonably can add.
I totally trust Michelle to manage her own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Manage her time.
I do too.
But I also agree with Michael. She puts a lot on her plate and a lot of complex things. And I don't want her to burn out either.
Well, I would say that I think that Michelle and I have, and not speaking for Michelle, speaking for myself, I think we have a really good working relationship with some great lines of communication. You know, I have staff who tell me I can't do anymore, and I've come to you and said, I've got a staff member who can't do anymore, and so I need to find a solution. And so, and not saying I'm a perfect manager by any stretch, but I think that there have been a lot of really substantive conversations about what is reasonable. For instance, I will tell you, we are probably only gonna apply for one grant. Because I said to Michelle, I don't think it's reasonable for us to apply for 2 grants when we're working on 2, when we've already received 2 grants and we're waiting to hear about 2 grants that are very likely. Like
Yeah, good
2
call.
more
Well,
grants,
that's good.
sounds like too much, right?
That's good, yeah.
So I am trying to be mindful of
Good
staff
call.
resources.
Yeah.
So just as a heads up,
Yeah.
Yeah,
only
yeah.
1 grant coming.
All right. So, that's fine, I move.
Second.
Excellent. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, it brings us to, the, social media policy draft. I am wondering if, given the hour, if we might just briefly touch on this to see if people had a chance to read it. If they had anything they wanted to say about it, and I would suggest that we end up bringing it back for substantive review. Yes.
My only comment is we should have a communications officer.
Communication officer.
Yes, so in the case of like the newsletters that Carissa puts out. For those, she is our communications officer. She vets all of that. And we have a consistent voice of the town. So if there's something that's ought not to be in there. And I, for one, don't use social media, never will socially, and I think it's dangerous stuff.
Mhm.
That's my outlook on it. So I would only like to have, it's still, oh, I want to post this up, make sure it's vetted
Yes,
through someplace consistent.
makes perfect sense.
That's my vote.
Is the town thinking about having like Instagram or?
No. The town is thinking about a Facebook page that would serve as only outward facing, not a place to post random public comments.
Beautiful.
So as in, like, basically work like a website, right?
Exactly, yeah, just pushing.
I know a lot of people use it, so I know Lansing does it. The supervisor in Lansing does it. People love it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it has a huge following, so. Yeah.
Just go to the website, call us or email us.
Yeah. Yeah, I would be all for that.
yeah, we don't want this to become the new public square. That's not, that exists and we're in support of
In order to do that, you do need the policy
We
that's,
do,
yeah.
and we want real clear guidelines, so, and I don't want to give this short shrift, I do want to move it
Yeah,
forward.
we can move forward.
So so if we can plan, I would like to put this high on the agenda for the next meeting, and so please review, and if you have, that's a great one, that's a great comment, Michael. If anybody else has any comments, Carissa, I can attest, has done the yeoman's work on this, she's put a lot of thought and careful attention in it, I think she's done a great job. I had minor contributions, a town attorney has already reviewed it,
Mhm.
so I think it's in a fairly fleshed out form, but, I would love to get even better. Yeah, don't do that, Mary. Okay, scheduling. A board budget retreat. Would it be possible now, and if you would prefer to wait to the next meeting, we can do it at the next meeting. I do not want to wait till the first meeting in July though, because Rich isn't there and I want his opinion. We would like to get a budget retreat scheduled, ideally, if any people are available, the first week in August. That's a bad week for you, Mary?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna be at a conference
Okay,
all that week.
how is the second week in August looking for people?
It's fine with me.
It's so far, it's all right.
Yeah, I think it's okay.
Okay,
That should be okay.
last year we did it in the morning. Does that continue to work well for people? Like an 8 AM meeting? Okay, so I'm gonna put out,
How many days does this usually take?
it's a retreat. is
Full
just-
week. It's full week.
You-
Sequestered.
So you need your sleeping bag
Yeah, that's right.
and actually share.
S'mores.
It was a 2-hour meeting
Good.
last time. And
You gotta take advantage of the new days.
Well, I just thought it was like a couple days. That's
No.
why I was like, that's fine.
Yeah, I guess
no,
retreats
okay.
are usually.
We do not want, it's an actual term that's used that you can, like, we could have a retreat. This one, we do it, like the county does a retreat for their budget. And this one we do in public. If we have sensitive information, we can go into executive session, but, It really, last year was really great because the board came together on its philosophy moving forward on the budget and kind of set the framework of what our broad goals for the budget were, which made it so much easier for Michelle and I to work together to help achieve those goals, knowing what the goals were
Okay.
in advance.
Okay,
So that would be the second week tentatively.
Yep, and so I will
Okay.
then get back to you with what possible dates. Michelle had recommended the first week, but that's no problem that it's not, doesn't work, but now I don't know what her availability is, so I will come back and we will grab that one. Okay. July and August meeting schedule. Rich is gonna be out of town. The first meeting in July are other people traveling for those meetings? I just wanna make sure we have a quorum.
No.
Okay, and then, for the last several years, except for 2020, I believe, the second meeting in August has been historically canceled because we do a board retreat now, so we're already having 2 board meetings. How do people feel about continuing with that?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, so then we don't need to do anything about it tonight, but we'll plan to cancel the second meeting in August. And we'll do a resolution on that future.
Yeah, as long as you don't have something. come up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've been able to plan around it. We typically cancel the second meeting in December as well. And if you know in advance, it's really helpful for planning the meeting schedule. Right now, we don't have anything scheduled for it other than getting together. Okay, so now is the resolution declaring surplus highway equipment. I would move that.
Second.
Any discussion on that?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And then item G is the RCAP contract. In your printed, everybody got an electronic copy. Does anybody want to see it? I got a printed copy. So what RCAP is an organization, a nonprofit that is federally funded to provide services specifically to rural communities for of less than 10,000 people. We are fortunate that Becky Sims is our representative. She covers our area, and she's formerly at the Thomas County Health Department and lives in Enfield, so she knows us real well. And the town worked with Becky quite a bit on septic systems in particular when she was with the health department until very recently. RCAP is really an organization that can help provide professional services to municipalities. In this case, the contract, which is free, we're not going to pay anything for it, is to serve as the platform that distributes and collects the data back for a survey that's being put together and drafts already have been put together by the Water Source Protection Committee. And so this contract would allow RCAP to support that initiative. When the information comes back, it's going to be coming back to us in highly usable formats, ArcGIS type, which will really speed up the process and make the data very usable for the town and for the committee as well. That's what I have. I would like to amend the resolution to say, whereas the town is deeply appreciative of the amazing contributions by the volunteers serving on the Water Source Protection Committee and their collective expertise. So I'd like to include that as a whereas, because they are wonderful, capable volunteers and we appreciate their service. Are there any questions or comments?
So was that moved?
I will move that with that
Yeah.
amendment.
Second.
Okay, is there any further discussion?
So my comment on it, so we met last night,
Uh-huh.
and so this was kind of a surprise. Because they were talking about a lot of this stuff. And nobody on that committee knew anything about that the contract was done.
Okay, it was done, it was finished yesterday, that's why I said I got final approval on it back yesterday.
Right, but we're supposed to vote on it tonight, and so there's what I feel very lucky is when the people on that committee, I mean, we have some really high-end people And so when I worked alumni weekend this weekend, and I had a woman from across the state, and, she knew Rebecca Snyder. And so we have, some really, a lot of horsepower on that committee that we have in this town.
Mhm.
And so, then meeting, last night, and then I was like, oh, look at this. And so I wasn't able to share this with them ahead of time. So I don't feel good about that, because
Okay.
it doesn't feel as though they're being consulted on it, because this already spells out what the survey looks like. And that was a big part of the discussion last night. So it didn't feel like they have input.
So all the questions, RCAP's not doing the questions. They're gonna
Yeah,
take
but
the
it was
questions
about how the
provided.
survey was looking.
Okay.
How the survey is,
Distributed.
distributed and managed.
Well, so the committee has talked to both me and to RCAP about how an electronic survey is distributed. And so I can tell you that I had a electronic conversation with Rebecca. She didn't have any corrections to the contract in terms of service provision. I heard directly from Liz Thomas that she's fine. And Roxanne's contributions also didn't tweak the contract itself. So I respect all of their opinions.
Mhm.
And if they don't have any requests for alterations to contract provision, I would.
Well, I don't know, because I sent it to them this afternoon when
Rebecca responded directly about the contract, so
Uh-huh.
her comments were specifically on the contract.
was that today or?
Yes, it was today.
I
That
got
was the one you had.
I got that one.
Oh, yeah, but then did you get the other one?
That was the one about.
Yeah, it was the whole thing.
That's the one you
Yeah,
just showed
yeah.
Liz, right? Isn't it? You
Yep,
saw?
that was the one you just showed.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it just feels like the committee is working, there's not enough overlap between the committee and what's going on, from the town. And that was a little bit what I was alluding to because Michelle doesn't have time to give them any time. And so there's a little bit of that gap. Niels is already stretched thin
Well, Michelle actually, it's not that Michelle doesn't have time to give 4:30 on
for another,
Mondays.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
not necessarily a
Yeah.
time she's capable of doing. She has a standing commitment. I have a standing commitment
Yeah.
at that same time too. Again, what I have proposed to the to the chair, and Linda wrote back in a positive way about that, is forming a subcommittee for the survey in particular. The seeing as how this committee has a lot of activities to do, the survey being just one component, it may make sense. And Linda's response back to me was positive that might be a direction that we could go so that we can all work more collectively
Yeah,
together.
and that was one
I
of the
don't-
discussions last night,
yeah.
is to make, how do we mesh better?
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
And I've had direct meetings. I mean,
Yeah.
to be honest, I put more time and effort into communications with this committee than I do any other committee. So we really are trying to be in service to them, and I think it simply is.
on the committee?
I just joined, I went to my second meeting last night.
You tried, because who was on it?
Nobody.
Nobody.
Well, Roxanne was originally on it, and then we should have appointed a new town board member to serve as liaison.
We did a couple meetings ago or
Oh,
something.
okay.
Yeah,
But this, I thought you were talking about the comprehensive.
No.
plan.
No.
no, that's, that's.
So
that's
Liz-
another- Yeah.
Yeah, so now you're on this other committee. What's it
Yes.
called again?
Source water.
No, it's
Source
water.
water. Water source
Protection
protection.
Yeah.
Committee, who's,
Okay.
and their mission, and they were formed specifically to create, to work to create a water source protection plan.
Yeah.
Right,
So that's the,
oh, well, good. It's
Yeah,
gonna be a-
so that's what we're working towards. So
Right.
anyway, that's all I have.
so, we can hold off, I'm fine if you wanna take this back, and have more conversations. I don't need to move it tonight. I mean, the survey is not gonna be done until at the fall is the time, is the.
And the survey would be done
Yeah,
in
let me ask
coordination
Lin-
with.
Let me ask Linda, hey, Linda, are you there?
Yes, I am.
So
Yeah,
did you-
Yeah.
Did
go
the
ahead.
committee want to review it first, or should we vote on it tonight?
I didn't get a chance. I didn't see it. I was out dealing with my poison ivy problem, but so I didn't get a chance to see it this afternoon. So I would appreciate a chance to take a look at it personally, but if Roxanne and Rebecca were positive on it, I don't see any reason to hold it up. Roxanne, do you want to go ahead, say something?
If I could, yeah. I mean, I think the contract, Rebecca raised the point that she first did think, I saw those emails, that the contract should be changed to, to recognize that the committee is working on this and it kind of at a core way. And Caitlin explained that, that wouldn't really be a normal sort of appropriate way for a town to word a contract. And I think that makes perfect sense. My response back, reaction to this and request, which I also reiterated at the beginning of this meeting, is that, you know, the town responsibilities, number one, is to designate a representative to serve as the contact primarily for the survey with RCAP. And I think that should be someone from our committee, and we should work directly with Becky because we've been working on this as a core part of gathering the information that is going to go into the source water protection plan. And it's also really core information for the comp plan. And so that's my input on it. I think the contract as worded is fine. We would have liked to have seen it ahead of time, since we did have 2 meetings talking about it. But that's fine. I get that people are busy, but I would like our committee to be the one who works with Becky, of course, you know, in concert with the town and keeping the town up to date, or, you know, having a subcommittee. I don't think we need a subcommittee. Perhaps we need just a subgroup that connects with whoever in the town administration you want us to. We're working fine on it and going along and really quite ready to go if we, you know, understand the parameters more clearly of who we're working with and what license we have to develop things and how to report back at what points for decision making. So that's all.
Okay.
I'd like to see us be the appointed representative that serves as the contact.
I don't
So
think
if-
that's specified though in
No,
this thing.
No,
It just says
it's
town
not in the-
will-
Yeah, it's not in the contract. So what I was asking is that in your resolution, you specify us, you can adopt this, but maybe you make another one, but that we get you have to designate a representative at some point. And so whenever
but
that is, we
The
are
town would be the
designated
one
as the
signing the
representative.
Contract, so we should be the contact and keeping the committee.
It doesn't
In the loop.
preclude, yeah, there's,
Right?
no one's trying to prevent Becky from working directly
Oh,
with
no,
the
no, no,
committee.
no.
But I think the idea behind making a primary contact a volunteer when there are staff and elected officials who can serve in that role and do appropriately. I mean, if you make somebody else, for instance, if you make somebody else the primary contact, that would mean that in order for me to interact with RCAP, I would need to run that through a volunteer. I'm here to tell you, I will not vote for that resolution. That doesn't make any practical sense. I actually happened to receive that recommendation while I was on the phone with our town attorney, ran the idea by him. He said that's a terrible idea from a town administration standpoint. That being said, there's no desire on my part to prevent the committee working directly with Becky. In fact, I tried to get Becky to even attend the meeting that you had last night. She wasn't available. And so I would love for her to work directly. I don't need any more activities to participate in. So I want her to work with that, but I think from a contract standpoint, that me or Michelle needs to be the primary contact for RCAP. Because the town is going to be, RCAP provides a lot of different services, and I will be talking to RCAP about providing additional services unrelated to Water Source Protection Committee work. So
is the contract okay, but then that's something we can flesh out later?
Yeah, I think, because
Is-
the contract itself and nor the resolution specify, get into the details of what the contact person is. It's just approving the contract as written, provided by RCAP.
Well, I think if they want to see it and there's no rush to do it, why don't we let the committee see the contract
I'm perfectly fine with that.
Sure.
Yeah.
and we'll vote on it.
That's fine.
too.
Are you guys gonna meet before our next meeting? Or you guys can just handle this via email?
Yes, we do. We can handle it through email, so we can move it along, but we do. We meet on the 26th. I keep getting this wrong. Our next meeting is the 26th. So it'll be
Well,
before you.
I
Our
will
next meeting is
apologize
the
because
23rd.
I know that I've heard, and I think Linda and Roxanne have expressed it, both that they want to move this process along, and I thought that this contract reflected what we had discussed in meetings. And so it was my effort to try and facilitate their process, not actually
Sure.
hinder it. But if they would like to hold it off.
It's up to
another
you guys.
meeting,
What do you
That's
want?
perfectly fine with me.
You want to see it first
Yeah.
before we vote on it?
Yeah, I think it would be good. Yeah. I think it would be good to run it past the committee because we're trying
okay.
really hard to be inclusive with everybody that's on it and not,
So we
and
can-
let them. Yeah,
So we don't need to table anything because we didn't pick up. a
We're gonna
resolution.
email it to them and then we're gonna, you could give input and we'll have a resolution.
Well,
for
we
them.
actually have
Yeah.
a liaison, so I'm gonna pass it to the
Yeah.
liaison to facilitate the process. And you have it, so my work here is done.
Okay, so we don't need to table it?
Nope, no need to table it.
Okay, all right.
Okay, that brings us
we'll
to
get back to
the
you then.
approval of
Okay.
the minutes.
Linda's
Um,
saying something.
Yeah, I think she just.
She said she's gonna get back to us.
Oh,
Approval of the minutes, 2 sets of minutes were provided by Carissa, May 23rd and May 31st. That was a special meeting on public information session. I didn't have any alterations. Did anybody on the board have any alterations?
no.
Okay, then I would move those sets of minutes as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Thank you. We do not have any budget modifications. But we do have a board notification. I forgot, I was moving other things around. So we are going to quickly move on to vouchers and consider that resolution while I'm pulling up my notification. Just give me a second.
We have that. Somebody gave that to us right here.
There's a Gmail.
Yep, there's a Gmail one.
Yeah.
So the original resolution got sent to the printer and then it disappeared.
Ready
So-
to read it?
So I printed it off my email. Yep, if you want it, so those who reviewed it are set to go.
Yep.
Awesome.
Resolved that the town board has reviewed and approves payment for claims for vouchers numbered 216 through 268 in the amount of $97,145.14, which includes voucher 219 as approved at the May 23rd town board meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you. That's a motion. Is there
Second.
seconded? All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Thank you. Moving backwards, we are going to head to the board notification. Per our procurement policy, this is my official notification to you that this is all work that Carissa did to put together. I have already approved it. And with board notification, we are, this is our, Carissa got quotes for the copier and postage meter. And we're going to, because we're, out of contract with our current systems. And we're going with Higher Info. She reviewed several different companies. I had never heard of Higher Info, but I was happy to learn about them. They got really good reviews from other municipalities and are known for having very attentive customer service. The quote comes back from there, a cost per year of $4,120.08. Carissa, is there anything you wanted to say about it?
No, I don't think so.
Yes, how does that compare to our current dollar wise?
It's pretty similar. I think it's pretty even or a little cheaper.
And is it better than, I remember you being disappointed in the last one. After the,
We're basically gonna have the same printer,
Uh-huh.
but we're kind of used to it now, so it's all right.
Wonderful. So you don't need to take any action. It's just me letting you know.
Okay.
And that brings us to full circle back to privilege of the floor. Is there anyone, there is nobody, we have scared away all of our in-person attendees. But is there anybody online who wishes to address the town board? Okay, let me get my timer going. Yes, Roxanne.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify what I was saying with regard to our person on our committee being the primary contact. It says for the survey, not for all the RCAP stuff, just for that survey work is what the wording was. And it doesn't mean that a person who is you or Michelle can't talk to them at all. And just to let you know that it's not a completely, absurd idea. When we were working on the grant that paid for the $100,000 grant that paid for all of the heating system replacement for the town, we didn't have a planner anymore, and the town supervisor felt like she couldn't handle it, so she made me a volunteer the person who was the interface with NYSERDA, the primary contact. That's not that NYSERDA never spoke to her, but I took care of all of the back and forth day-to-day things that had to be done, including in submitting all of the materials that were required, which got us the $75,000 reimbursement. And so when there's respect and trust and engagement working together, things can work just fine with volunteers. So it wasn't in any way anything other than something that seemed somewhat reasonable based on other things. And you just saying how, Michelle, everybody's so overloaded. Here our committee is working on this, focused on this, expertise in it, and care about it. So
I don't mean that.
so I respect your thoughts, but it wasn't, I just want you to understand where I was coming from. It's just trying to move this forward in a positive way.
Thank you very
Well,
much.
volunteers can help the town and certainly not, preclude the authority of anyone on the town board. I'm well aware of town board authority.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else in the public who wishes to address us? Okay, then I think it's Rich's favorite time of the night.
Let's move to adjourn.
Second.
Made it before 9:30, Rich.
Really?